little time left in the month, and then
Yep.
the month and quarter the same, then I was like not using that, and I was just using like the year to be green or the year to be red, and not really using month or not using month and quarter.
I mean, it's an interesting strategy, right? Because at the end of the month, you could just play daily signals, um, and then wait it out until we get new continuity for August. So that's certainly one way to do it. Um, I mean, I went like, for example, this one here, Spotify caught my attention only because it's got earnings this week, and I'm looking at the weekly chart, and we're reclaiming this three potentially if it works, right? So if they have good earnings, and I think they release Tuesday morning, yeah. So that's one that I think I might, it took out this pivot low here and then reclaimed
Are
it.
you gonna buy after earnings or before earnings or wait and see?
I still need to do my homework on it just to see what the implied volatility move is, like what the expected move is. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty big price ticker, so I'm not so sure yet. But at least I'm basing that based on the chart. Um, a couple others that I've seen that I kind of like were the inside week on Morgan Stanley. It's up at the highs, but inside day to trigger the inside week. It's got some room to the top. So even just for like a end of the month kind of play is the way I was looking at those.
Yeah.
Hims
Oh,
was an so go.
I also posted my my list on the other channel. Just
Okay,
FYI. I don't know if you
awesome,
saw it.
awesome. I did not see that yet. I'll go have a look.
But I'm looking at your list, and it looks like there's a lot of stuff that's very similar to mine.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. The other channel, right?
Um,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah.
So
I
Oklo,
tried my
go.
I tried my best to filter out certain tickers that were already at the highs, unless exception might be Oklo. But there was stuff like GE or GEV that was literally just already at like all-time highs, and
Yeah,
even though you have signals to keep going up, I don't know if that's the best place to take it on a broadening formation when you're already at all-time highs or at the top.
yeah, exactly, right. So it depends on how big of a broadening formation you want. Like I like this look on Oracle. 3 1 week. That's always a sign that we could probably. And I know that Oracle's been getting lots of call flow recently, so I don't I don't know that I hate this idea either. Um, QS is an interesting one. I saw took out these lows here, and then right, and this one's been in the news quite a bit too, so or at least in the trends. Um, yeah, but I'm just trying to stick to stuff that has been getting a lot of press if it's outside of my core watch list. And so I just, I've got to have a reason. I can't just play it because it's got a setup, right? So if you want to fire off, or anybody wants to fire off some tickers, let's go ahead and do that. And if not, we can just tab through some. Oh yeah, Zoom was an interesting one too. I saw potential downside move on it. So I had the RevStrat week set up,
Yeah, I see that.
full time frame continuity, and it's got sort of a PMG sort of action here on the daily as well. So that's one that I liked. What else do I remember that stood out for me? I can't remember. TSM, I think, had an inside week, yeah, 3 1 week. Um, but again, up at the highs, not great. You want to get that from lower. Hims,
McDonald's?
McDonald's,
Not a fast mover, but
yeah. This one here, Hims might actually be an interesting play. Depends on how we get outside of this outside day, right? So continuity on the week is going to be important. If we open green and like, if we're gapping up or whatnot based on this China tariff shit, if we open green, and then I could totally see us coming up and taking out these pivots up here. McDonald's,
BA also, but we'll look at McDonald's first.
yeah, I like this one a lot. Okay, I'm gonna write this one down. BA,
Yeah, BA. It's also got a setup on the day for the 122.
yep, I like it too. It's up at the highs, but like I said, green gets greener, right? So,
It is up at the highs, but if you scroll like to the left,
oh
you
yeah, yeah, yeah.
definitely have
There's
people to go
definitely,
against
yep,
the gap fill.
yep, I like it. Two down in green year. That's a very bullish looking chart for sure. All right, thanks for that one. That one's good.
VRT possibly. I haven't traded this one before though.
VRT. Super strong on the week. Here's a Cardillion special here. Look at this one. Actually, is he here? Yeah, he is. Cool. Hey, Cardillion.
Cardillion special.
Yeah, not weak enough to take out lows. I like that. Cool.
Snow.
Oh, I like this one a lot. Look at the weekly setup here. This is beautiful, right? So reclaim the three. This is my play. I missed I missed this one. I'm writing a bot right now that does this, where if we reclaim the lows of a three on any number of time frames, I want to know about that. Yeah, I like this one a lot. The month is still very much doji, but
SYM. Although I've never traded this before.
I like the daily signal.
Weekly hammer.
Yeah,
And then you do see like a little cluster of PMG if you like scroll to the left on the day. Kind of hard to see though.
yeah, yeah. These highs up here.
SMCI looking pretty good. Although it looked really good on last Friday, but still looks like it
Oh
has
yeah,
targets above.
yeah. It's got. Yeah, this is definitely one that I'm sure. Hopefully, even Drea's got her eyes on this one. Hammer weak. I like that. Hammer at the highs. That's always a good sign.
Marvell looks okay as well. I'm ignoring the month and the I'm ignoring the month though.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, month is
But
probably gonna stay inside, right? To set
yeah,
up. Is there like a dominoes thing setting up?
I
If
mean on
it's
the quarter you could
this.
still make a like a two up, right?
Yeah.
Two down, two up on the quarter. Whether it stays inside is fine. I mean if it does, you can still like if we get like maybe a setup where this month we turn the month green but still not like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, doesn't go two up and then next month we just go two up right away, that'd be pretty cool. Then we have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Reclaiming the lows of this three here. So that's cool.
Yeah, a week you have a 3-1-2 possibly up. It's a hammer on the week as well.
Yep. And it doesn't even have to be outside bars. You can do any range, right? Like you can just pick a range like that. That's a range of price, right? So you can see that it's taken out those lows, and now we should be targeting the high of that range on the weekly.
UAL, which is an airline, but this one looks like it could go.
3-1 day inside week. Yeah, I like it too. So we've got MRVL, UAL. Someone Slowpoke shouted out in chat just now. Dell. So 3-1 week on this, and it's still not at the highs. 3-2 quarter. I like this one too. But it's got to go and expand that three, like a 3-1-2, and it can't come back below those highs. We got some.
Yeah, that's the problem with. But I saw Dell too. But like, if you look in the past, it's just like it has these moments where you're like thinking, next week it's gonna set up and go, and then if you look at the previous weeks, it always like comes down and retests the bottom really fast.
Mhm.
So just note that if you take the trade when it breaks, you're gonna trade take it at the top of the broadening formation, and you might have to wait for a better like setup on the day. But yeah, it looks pretty good as well. I think gap fill above is the target.
Uh, Google. Inside day
Mm,
with
I'm not too
targets.
sure about Google. Like it could go, but like on the week it's 2 up, and on the day, yeah, you have a 2-1-2. I'm not confident that I'd say it could go up. Like it looks to me like it might even want to go 2-1-2 down and then retest the lows. And then after you get a reclaim of the lows, then you could take a setup back up and try.
Right. I wouldn't mind
So like
seeing it
day trade
come down,
maybe?
take out some of these plays, like even a rev strat on a daily would be cool. I'd like to see that, but
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Like it looks like it wants a 2-1-2 down, right? And then retest those lows down there really quick. And then if it can reclaim, and then you get like another like maybe 1-2-2 setup, then take that 1-2-2 back up.
right.
Let's see. APO.
Easy. I'm gonna stick you on mute for a bit, just because I'm getting some keyboard sounds from you. But tag me when we can unmute you. APO. I like this one too. Inside weak, and you see the broadening formation here on the day. That's great. I've never traded this one,
This
but
one, let's see. I've never traded that one either, but it keeps showing up on a lot of my scans.
yeah,
Rocket Lab, RKLB.
yeah. This one was on my came up on mine too, and I have traded this one.
Oh yeah.
This one does well. I want to know about that guy. Cool. That's a good one here. APO, you had an RK.
Thoughts on Circle?
So inside week, inside month. Um, yeah, but you've got like so it's interesting, right? Is I think that if it does take out last week's lows, would probably rev strat back to the upside, given the hype that this name has been getting. I also wouldn't be surprised if this one gapped up, and gave us green continuity on the week and then went inside week up. That wouldn't surprise me either. Higher lows, right? So these lows got preserved, these lows got preserved. So I could totally see these lows getting preserved, but if not, just come down and take out this bit of liquidity here, and then
Yeah.
away you go. I do like this one. The options are really expensive on this one though, because they have odd
True. A lot of
volatility, right?
Ivy.
Yeah. D
Uh, Hood.
Hood. Yeah, I
Always
like.
say.
Yeah, I like this one too. It was an inside week, right? I can't remember.
Earnings
Yes.
this week.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
fun.
got earnings this week. Wednesday after market, and we got another one here. D Dog.
Okay, that wasn't on my list. Let's look. Uh, yeah, it's not bad. So it'd be two up, two up. Okay, and then target is like gap fill and also
Yep.
that
Yep.
magnitude on the week. Yeah, it's not bad. I get a little nervous when I see like on the day two up, and then you're thinking to yourself, oh, I want another two up.
Yep.
Because that could easily be a day where yeah, you go two up and then suddenly hit the gap fill and you go red, and then all the way back down just to test the lows.
Yep.
But from a like a longer like at the higher time frame view, yeah, looks all right.
So I actually got this one on this day here, Thursday, with the. So we had the reclaim. I think this was one of the very first ones I started experimenting with this reclaim idea. So reclaim the low of this bar right here, and then we had the outside day, and then the expansion. So I got that, and I got this one here as well. So I closed out my position because I wasn't sure what, like, I mean, this looks like it could be a broadening formation as well. So how does the week open, and what does the continuity give us, right? So I don't really like holding stuff overnight or over the weekends, but yeah, given this administration, I'm gonna have to change my mind on that. Yeah, I don't mind D-Dog. I trade this one pretty good.
Hey, just curious, from JP Morgan last week, are you still holding that, or did you close it out before the weekend?
I closed. The only thing I have from last week is PLTR.
Ah, I see.
But yeah, this would have been a good one to hold. This was a good call. This was definitely a good call on your part.
I cut that position when it like if you're drawing like the broadening formation, when it hit the top of the broadening formation and it just like started reversing, that's when I cut my position on Thursday.
This guy here, yep, I see that.
Yeah.
Yep,
And then I was like gonna leave runners, but as soon as it started going red, I was like, I just cut it and I'm done.
yeah. Reclaim these lows, and this is another way that they buy the shooter, right? So yeah, I like JPM, and I think I had Morgan Stanley as well on my. So their charts look
Yeah,
often similar, right? So
yeah. I like Morgan Stanley a little better than JPM here, just because with JPM you're gonna be at the highs. And when you're at the highs, you have nobody to really like take out as you're going up. So it's kind of a grind versus Morgan Stanley hasn't gone there yet. And then if it goes 212 on the week, boom, you take out the first, 212 target, and you can also make an all-time high there.
yep.
So it looks like you have plenty of shorts to go after there on the day too.
FTNT, is it doing anything? So we've gone on the
It
week.
was
It
on my
was
list, but I cut it. Yeah.
yeah. Inside week up failed.
And so
Um,
you think maybe you go down, right? But then if you go down, you're gonna still just be trapped in mother bar problems, which is terrible.
like I look at this shit, right? Like this kind of price action on the daily. This isn't doing anything.
Yeah, if anything, you want it to get to break out of the broadening formation or look for a setup out of it
Yeah.
rather than just constantly back through it. Because if you go constantly back through it, you're just going to be stuck. I mean, I guess if you're using options and you're selling calls at the top and you're buying puts or selling puts at the bottom, sure, but this is not one I want to, I don't know, I feel like I want to trade because the movement's just going to be like choppy inside of that mother bar.
Yeah. Cool. Same.
Yeah, like you're stuck in the mother bar from May 5th.
Yep.
All of that action right now is still stuck in that mother bar May 5th. So unless you have a setup to go out of it,
Yep.
then yeah, don't touch. in my opinion. Palantir looks great. The only problem is all-time highs. So it's just, I mean, if you're holding on to it and you already have like, options on it or a position in it, stay in it. But if you don't, I don't know if I just take a position right here. No setup on the day really, no setup on the
Yeah.
week. It's just two up, two up, two up.
So here's my new kind of method on, and sorry if this is a deviation. In fact, we've done almost a half hour, so I feel okay, and we've run through a whole bunch of tickers. If the week starts off and starts to go red, that's going to be one clue that the continuity could change, right? Um, so if this guy goes red, then okay, now I might start thinking, okay, get out of the trade. But especially if it reclaims this high, then I will exit the trade. So that's my line in the sand right now for my Palantir position.
Yeah.
Also earnings next Monday.
Yep.
And earnings next Monday. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about other stuff now, there's something I'm gonna be kind of experimenting with going forward.
Yeah. Go.
Is something called relative volume.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I was, trying to talk to myself about how like there's just certain days in the week where I'm taking 30s and 60 setups, and it's like I can't get a single hit, or if I do, it's like maybe one or two, or no, just like one ticker out of like four or five that I took. And so I'm just finding that like I take a whole bunch of these just paper cuts because I'm like, okay, I stopped out. I take another ticker, oh, I got stopped out again. And it's just like I'm just wondering, is there something else, like another secret sauce out there that's just like can give me a little bit more confidence that, a setup is just gonna go? And I'm taking solid setups, like for example, PANW last week, and I think I also took ARM. Those were like if you looked on it on the week, right, and on the day, like solid setups. And I think, oh, he's pulling it up now. Great. So like if you look at it from the week, right, and the day, I tried to take it on, I think it was Thursday or Wednesday.
It was Wednesday. It was the RevStrat day.
Yeah, right. And
Yep.
you took it on the Wednesday. It worked out okay. The next day, Thursday, it kind of peaked up and just like didn't really do anything the entire day. If you look at an intraday chart, and then finally Friday just started going. Um, but there's like just certain tickers that like, they have good setups and you take them and it's like you just have bad timing or something, or the market's just like not doing much on those days. So I was looking at relative volume, not regular volume. So the thought process was like regular volume before was like I thought maybe if I just traded certain tickers that have a high volume or high ATR, then they're just more likely to move and I can kind of make money on that volatility. But even then, like certain tickers like Nvidia just always have high volume, or Hood, or Palantir. So I looked into like relative volume, which is like how much volume a ticker trades by, a certain time of the day. And then I have an indicator on my chart that kind of compares that, like at certain times of the day, how much volume has been made. The one I was looking at, Solanke, was called, I think it was called relative volume at time. So you have to just, if you type in relative and then
Okay.
space volume, you'll find it. Um, yeah, relative volume at time.
Perfect.
And if you stick that on like a 5 minute or like a lower time or 5, 15, 30, you can kind of see like certain days it's going up or it's green or it's red. So the green and the red just basically tell you like at this point in the day, relative to like the last 5 or 10 days, for example, is the volume high or low. And that's the like first thing that's important is you want it to be like above its norm because that gives you the first indication that the stock may move. The second thing you want to see is the relative volume stay like high,
Yeah.
right? So if it's increasing throughout the day, that's like a better sign, especially as like the ticker is going up or the ticker is going down. You kind of want to see the volume stay up and keep going up. Because when the volume starts dropping off, that's when you can notice the moves will like go down. But that's something that I've been looking at too, is like the first thing I want to see when I see a setup is that okay, first of all, we start the day with like, it's actually going, check mark one. Check mark two is okay, we have like high relative volume, good. Three is the volume increasing, or is it actually staying high versus just like, a spike on the first 5 minutes and then just, everyone leaves. And then from there, obviously you want to look at the chart. Okay, what's the setup on the week? What's the setup on the day? Where can I get in on a 30 and 60, etc. Um, so
Yeah.
that's just something I'm going to be looking at using relative volume, um, to see if I can get like a higher win rate on just, my entries.
Yeah, that's cool. And definitely for Pan W, I think the target for this week should be, these highs up here, right? But
Yeah, I was mentioning I was trading this on like I had zero DTE. Well, I mean I had weeklies that turned into zero DTEs because I was still holding them, and then I also had like next week's contracts, and then I think I posted a chart in the chat where like on the 5 minute, you can definitely see this reversal that occurred, and I was just like out on my zero DTEs when literally the chart just kept going and going. Yeah, you can see if you go to the fiver, you can see like this reversal at
from
target, and
from
then
Friday, right?
yeah, from Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I got out my zero DTs, and then like once I kept holding on to my like higher, what do you call it, higher or next week's contracts, and then when it hit like 205, that's when I like cut pretty much a third of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also, yeah, that's another thing I was looking at, the concept of using volume for my trades. But yeah, small thing I'm working on.
Yeah. I do like using volume again. I didn't for a while, and I think it's because I don't want to use I shouldn't say drank the Kool-Aid. I should say I got into a mode where I said if I can't quantify it, then I don't want it on my charts. Um, like VWAP
I would say,
and stuff like that
yeah.
people use, right? And so I see a lot of traders use those things successfully, and so I thought, okay, you know what? If I want to be successful at this, I should also look at what other ideas have, right? So relative volume certainly makes sense to me for sure.
I think it really just depends on when you use the tools, right? Like some people use just plain volume also, but if you're just looking at plain volume throughout the entire day, every single candle, it really doesn't like matter a lot. I would say like volume's important at certain points in the day, right? So like if you look at the volume on the bar that triggers your setup, that should be like a pretty high volume, especially at like lower time frames. And then, as price is increasing, you kind of want to see the volume just increase, increase, increase. And then, like, I'm just trying to notice that, like, when you make tops, for example, there's a lot of times where you make a new high, but the volume is, like, really small. And that's, like, usually a red, yellow flag to me that, like, price may, maybe just, not there. But these are, like, concepts that are, like, outside the strat at this point.
Yeah,
Because I feel like with the strat, I'm already have a pretty decent concept of it, and I'm just trying to incorporate a lot of, different things like relative volume and other, you know, trading, whatever, and other tools to basically give me another like edge beyond just using the strat.
yeah, cool. Do you want to do any trade reviews?
Yeah, we could. I mean, do you have
Yeah,
any
I've got no other tickers I've got that I would.
Can we, guys? Can we talk about the April stuff? I'm really, really interested. Or are we waiting for Dre? Oh, Dre is here. I
Sure,
know she
the
we
what
wasn't.
can.
stuff?
Yeah, yeah, we can do that. Drea's here. Hi, Drea. Actually, you know what's really
What stuff
cool
are we looking at?
is how like I really admire all of you guys because consistently like this whole all of these names that I'm seeing here on the on the panel here, everybody shows up like all the time. It's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, you want to see what I saw on SPY from April. I'll do that now.
Just in general.
Sure, sure.
Because okay.
Okay, so it's still got these levels from way before. In fact, I've still got my original lines here, so I'll just do the daily chart, right? These were those big reclaims that you saw on the weekly chart. The key for me was this guy here. So we got stuck in this massive, this was that, Trump said
Mother bar.
buy stocks, right? We got stuck in this mother bar. And so I'll block that out just because it's, easier to see. Oh, and then so this the tell for me, and I went back through my charts just to figure out exactly what it was. And I saw this profile and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. It was this day here. So we took out these lows, and then that was the day that was the 2-2 reversal, which basically came out of that mother bar, and then we had this hammer or this low get taken out too. But it was this particular day here that I was saying, yeah, I think we've seen the lows, and if this holds and goes 2-2, then we're gonna go see all-time highs, and we did.
But
Yeah, because if you're trading within that mother bar, right, it
Yeah,
looks like it wants to create a new low. It tries to do that, pokes below it, and then um, at that point, it's the next day, everyone's just wondering, are we going to get continuation to the bottom of that mother bar, or are we going to get the reversal and try to go to the top of the mother bar?
right.
And then once it goes to the top of the mother bar, right, at that point, that's another area that you have to really watch because, okay, you go above the mother bar and you might poke up, make a two up and maybe a failed red, and then at that point you might be coming right back down again. But then it retests, it you reclaim, I mean you test, it makes a new low from there, but it retests and reclaims, and then it just continues going back to the upside.
TFC was like, I mean, you can speculate this way pretty much for any kind of any place in the chart you take. You can maybe come up with something like this. But here, if you try to see like what you're stuck in the mother bar, so you expect ref strats, right? So like whenever you poke up, you expect it to poke down, and then like I don't know, I don't remember exactly what the TFC was at that time, but I'm pretty sure like all the high time frame TFC was like red probably, right? So
Higher time
I
frame
just
continuity doesn't scare me anymore because I know that every move has to have, like, if I'm so let me do the simple thought process was this way, is that we had
yeah.
this massive green day, right? And that
Uh,
had loads of volume. I For this to get reversed was going to require a miracle. That's kind of what I said, right? Is in my head was of like, there's no chance that this kind of I've never seen a green day like this ever, right? Like that's such an anomaly to me. So then I said, okay, well, what after that is going to give me a clue that we have a broadening formation? And that was the first clue here. This was the only liquidity point that we had in this entire formation, right? So this happens first, then I'm looking for the broadening formation afterwards, and that was my first clue. That's the simplest way that I could put it, right? And I said, okay, so this is the only evidence that I've got that there's a broadening formation happening, right? Sorry.
but
I mean,
see,
if we look at it from the week, right? Also on the week, you have 2-1, and at that point, when you made that low inside the mother bar, it would have gone, is it two down in red? But as soon as that two down in red on the week flips from red to green, right? That's the first, I guess, sign that you have maybe a reversal coming.
Yeah. And now that I'm seeing it here too, I didn't even see this, but on the weekly, we've reclaimed this low, right? So if I stick that as a, where's my reclaim thing here, right? So if we mark that as a reclaim, now we've reclaimed this low with that massive, there's no, right? And then you could even say, and I've only developed this reclaim methodology after I missed out a good chunk of this stuff here. Is It's the ultimate way to get into the bottom of a trend, to push it up, is these reclaims, right? So this inside weak reclaim to go to failed to going three, that was the entry, right? That was another potential entry. Where, how would I mark that off? I'm just going to throw a continuity level there, right? So then we take that back to the daily, and I look at now and see like all of the different evidence that we've got. We've got, a reclaim of that low. We've got this internal broadening formation, and then reclaim of the
That's a
inside
turnaround
week here.
Tuesday.
This was a turnaround Tuesday as well. There you go, right? Like all the evidence stacked up, you know. And then so if we get outside of this broadening formation, then do we get the expansion? And this, we had. I remember this day here. He came out and said him and yeah, it was a Monday, right? Him and Xingping Ji decided that they were all gonna get along, and I did get this day. I saw this move lower, and then I got back in on these days, and right, and so I got a big chunk of this trade. I remember that, and then when these, but it was around here that I started to really focus on the reclaim idea. I remember this day, this Monday, I got back in again. So I mean, I should be driving, a much newer car in hindsight, but at the end of the day, this is this is where we're at, and now, my game has entirely changed to just not freak out when I see red. I'm actually gonna be grateful for the red, because in this market environment, with the money printing that's going on, anything that's red, I'm just looking for ways to reclaim that shit and go back up. Anyway,
Well, also too, like when you take the trades from where you're pointing at the reclaims, right? Those are all areas where it's like the bottom of the broadening
right,
formation.
right.
And so even like now when we're looking at tickers on these charts, right? And we're thinking to ourselves, yeah, uh, these are great tickers that show us a lot of green. We're usually looking for a time where it's retaken the bottoms versus like I'll point the example like Dell for example. Dell is not I think just made it like a high. It's not really at the bottom of the broadening formation, right? We want to look for an area where it may not necessarily have to be red, but it could have poked down two down red at one point, and when it turns green, that's a signal where we really want to get in.
So here's one that I
Um,
was looking at was cost, right?
right.
So so to your point, right, you want to get in when stuff's been beaten up, and then look for ways to reclaim back. So I'm just playing this, just, you know, devil's
If
advocate.
it,
I'm
yep,
just I'm
yep.
just riffing here. Let's say this we're pausing China tariffs for 90 days. Costco gets all their shit from China, right? So do we go 2 week? That would reclaim this level here, right? And then what does that do is look at all the PMG here on the daily. Now that is range that you're like, this is the heart of good trading, is you want more traders to come through. Some of the other shit that we looked at today, like Morgan Stanley, right? Inside week, that's all well and good, but we don't have much range to come through, right? So Blue Maroon's exactly right, is we want more red to to come through. Now as a day trader, I mean, I'm a very quick scalping style day trader. So I don't need a hell of a lot of range, but if you're looking to strat and swing, something like cost would be good, right? So green continuity inside day,
Can I
break,
throw a
right?
ticker in?
Yeah, sure. Here, I'm gonna throw an alert on this guy.
This is one that's more for like a long term. It wasn't one that I really thought. DHR. This is one where I was like, it's not on my weekly watch list, but if you look out into like the month and the quarter and the year, you can definitely see like, is it thinking to myself, are we at the bottom of the broadening formation from like a longer term or longer time frame view?
I mean, outside week, right? That's, outside month and a 2-2 quarter.
Yep, and if you draw the
Like,
lines, from the bottom, you make a bottom, it reclaims the bottom. Like if you're looking at your yearly chart there, boom.
yep,
I'm not saying it's gonna go up to the top of the broadening formation tomorrow, but this is what it looks like from a longer time frame view where, you know, can it turn around from here? Possibly.
I don't know what these people do, but medical
Health
special,
tech.
yeah.
So I
Um,
guess you can watch XLV.
so here's what I like about this idea, Blue Maroon, is this notion of, the wider the base, the higher in space. That's an amazing basing formation here, right? And so 3-2 week, just defend the highs of the previous week, last week, and you're good to go.
Yep. So I like this one, but it wasn't on my weekly list just because it didn't really have. I mean, I know you guys like to look for a little better setups on the day and the week to give yourself bigger pops, but this is on my like longer time frame list that I'm looking at.
Hmm.
Just because like yeah, we're not really looking at the month. The month is irrelevant because we only have a couple days left. But then if you're looking at the quarter, right, you still have plenty of time to get that two down, two up going to the upside.
Yeah. So now you look at like, I mean, I love drawing the broadening formations in, but I am lazy. So it actually did take out that low right there, right? And that's it. So yeah, get outside this range and expand it, and that's what you want, right? Then what you're doing is now you're trading against these guys. If you get out of this range, now these guys are trading against these guys. And then if you beat them up, then they're going to join your team, and then all of these guys trade against these guys, right? It's kind of like that. What was that game that we used to play? Capture the Flag or British Bulldog. British Bulldog. That was the one where you got to tag someone, then they join your team, and then eventually there's nobody left on the other team, and your team's got 16 people who are beating the shit out of everyone, right? Or out of the two kids who are left. But I shouldn't advocate bullying and whatnot in school. That was back in the day. Back in the day, we used to actually be able to be physical, and now you can't. Anyway, um,
Yeah, I don't know if you guys like to look at these kind of setups that I have. I usually share the ones that are more short term, but stuff that's interesting.
yes, interesting stuff is always good for me. Sure, 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 sure.
You already have shop on your chart, so that one I don't know if we already looked at. SE, or C Limited was another one I was looking at as well. I like the kind of like reclaims on the day,
Come on, load.
and it really looks like if it can push higher, it has a lot of room to go.
So inside week, I have traded this guy before too. Um, yeah, I like it.
So, like, with your reclaim stuff, are you saying that we need to be inside the mother bar and then we reclaim on the higher time
Uh,
frame and then reclaim something on the lower time frame? Is that understand this correct?
Ask your question again.
Sorry, I'm still stuck on that whole reclaim on spy, but I imagine this is gonna be similar. When you say we need to reclaim something, the setup looks like a mother bar on the higher time frame, and then a reclaim of some sort of a low on the lower time frame, or did I?
I mean,
Did I
yeah, I think the idea of reclaim is often made more complicated than it needs to be. I'll just take any like, and that's the I would say the tragedy of the strat is you can look at any chart and then put words to it, right? And so it makes whoever is charting it sound like they're a genius, and they saw this ahead of time and they knew it was going to work, right? But if I just look at a 2-2 reversal, right? So we have a 2 down, 2 up reversal here on SE on the week. If it's going to trigger a 2-2 reversal, that would be here, right? Up at the
Mm-hmm.
top. But in order to do that, shit, let me put this as the level. If it's going to do that, by definition, it has to reclaim this first bar,
Yeah.
right? That's my
um,
that's my entry now. And then the second look that I have is the change of continuity. And then the third, like, so, I mean, I'll grab this image from my collection here. This is the picture that I've been using to kind of, help my kid, and also even um, my brother, right? He's like, okay, teach me what you're doing here. I said, this is the image here, right? Is whatever candle this might be, red or green, I don't really care. The idea of a reclaim is if you look at, for example, the bid and the ask um, depth of market, right? Like if you look at the ladder, the ladder isn't organized by time, but this is just okay. In this period of time, these guys were, and this was the low, and then we kind of opened here, we come down, we take out the, and so the strat says get in when the green line triggers to go 2-2 up, but your change of continuity is a potential entry, and I'm fiddling and I'm doing this with SPX. That's why I'm just focused on that as a day trader. Is when I can reclaim a bar. I don't care if this was a 1, 2, or 3 here. If in the next time frame I'm reclaiming this bar's low and I can change continuity, I'm in, and I get in with a better risk reward profile than if I was waiting for the textbook strat.
What are you risking? The low of that week?
I'm risking this here. That's like if I'm going long, that's my risk here, because if it goes below this, then we're re-triggering the 2-2 down.
Wait, no, that's your trigger, right?
That's my trigger and my entry. Like my entry is my stop. Is kind of what
No,
I'm saying.
but well, how does it like practically? How does it work? Like you do the 1 cent plus the spread. I think that one we discussed.
So if you the trigger and the entry. So he's saying that if you enter at that area, right, and let's say, I mean, are we gonna take it short or are we gonna take it down? If you take that signal from your entry and you're taking it short, right? You kind of when you go below that channel, then you hit your target right there at the bottom of that, like what, 105.19, that could be where you take profit. But once price goes from the bottom, goes like past from the bottom and then goes back up past your trigger, that's if you were short at any point there, that's when you're going to be out. Now, that the opposite could be true too, where if you want to go when you're trying to trade like a reclaim and you go from that's when you switch from short to um, long.
Uh-huh.
Let's see, what's a better way to explain it? Okay, let's say you have like a 212 30s and 60s signal, right? So when the price crosses that entry signal, you're in, right? But if price comes back below your entry, you're out.
But at the moment when it crosses the entry, like it typically doesn't cross and just flies, right? It like you typically end up with staying at certain price for some amount of time, right? So you need to have some wiggle room. Like you cannot set your stop at your entry.
Yeah,
You'll probably get this out.
that's something that I guess, you can decide on. The different level of stop depends on what your risk tolerance is, right? You can give it a certain percentage, or you can just say if the candle that was once red goes green, then that would be your stop.
Yeah, but that was my question to Solanke. Like if you look at this hammer, right, and you want to enter when this red, when you go above the low of that previous red
Yep.
doji
Yep.
kind of thing,
Yep.
right?
I would
So
say at
like,
that
what is
point,
it?
I mean, at that point you look for at a lower time frame, right? Because that's like a monthly signal right there. So, I mean, if it crosses on the monthly, then you can go down to the weekly and the daily to find your setup, and then you can set your stops based on those signals that you entered. Versus, I mean, some people do want to enter just on a monthly signal, which you could do, but at that point, you're not going to use like a weekly option. You might use something like 90 days, 120 days out.
You don't, yeah, I'm not worried about like
Shares.
which contract to use. Like, yeah, assume using shares. Like options is just an extra risk, extra reward. But like even if you use shares, right? Like if you wanna, I mean, you can always drill to a lower time frame, but at some point you
I
need to
mean,
like decide which time frame is going to be your lowest.
Yep.
Let's say you have this setup not on the monthly. Let's say it's a daily setup, whatever, hourly setup, whatever you want, right? So you reclaim, and this 120.81 becomes your trigger.
Yep.
So the price goes above 120.81, you in with a long.
Yep.
At that point, where's your stop?
120.81.
okay. I mean,
He'll get kicked out.
yeah. Let's see. Okay, let's look at it on the week, right? So with 120.81, that's the high of that low candle right there. Is there any setup on the week? I guess you could have taken it when it went two down, two up. But you would have been kicked out. Which is
You could have
fine, I
gotten in
guess.
on the
So
two going 3 week, right? So a reclaim of that week here, and then it's a 2 going 3 week to re-trigger, right? So
hold on.
that
So when let's say well his question isn't necessarily when you can take it. His question is more about like what would your stop be? So like if you took it on the two on that week previous to the three that Solanke was talking about and
Yep.
you took it on the two up, I would say my stop would be when that week goes red if you're just looking at the week. So if it went from because it looks like I don't know if it went from red to green, but let's say I took it on a two up. As soon as that week goes red, that's when I would be out. I mean, that's one way to stop out of it if we're not looking at a daily.
So one time frame lower basically is what you're using.
I mean, you can
It's
go
not that exact,
down
but
as
you have to remember to zoom out when you're doing trades. Zoom out. Look at the bigger picture. That's what he's giving you the tip on.
but I think and zoom out makes sense, but I think this is where it comes back to the that thing that Alex always talks about, which is what kind of trader are you? Like what kind of if you're buying like September calls on SC from down here and you're going to hold it for, you know, a couple months, but you're giving yourself more time. A little bit of red to green isn't going to change your options premium too much, right? But, you know, it
No, I'm not. I'm not saying like. Look, I even don't care if I can buy commons. Like I
right,
can
sure,
totally. I'm totally
sure,
fine playing commons. Like I can do it on margin and get like tons of shares if I wanted to.
sure.
But the principle still applies, right? You need to have something that tells you like, okay, well, you thought it's going to go long, but it's not actually going to go long. When is that time when you say, oh, it actually isn't doing? Because if you buy at 120.81 and it goes 120.79, I'd argue it probably doesn't mean that your idea is wrong, right? So at which point does it become wrong? Like you don't want to wait till you go below that the low of that week, which is like around
Right.
100. That seems like a very loose stop.
So my
That's a
you
very good question, and a very good point, and that brings into mind what is your risk tolerance? How much are you willing to let it dip and stay in the game? So that's up to each of us to do.
and so the way I've done it easy is I said, okay, what kind of guy am I? I'm leaning back towards what I've learned from Rob, which was, every 60 is a new day, right? So he
Mm.
focused very much on the 60-minute time frame. Rob even said, the intraday time frame continuity determines control. So a 60 can take control away from the day. A 60 can take control away from the day, and then the day switches and takes control away from the week. It's like who's in control of the price action right now, and that control could be in conflict with higher time frames, right? So
I think
let's say the higher time frame is bullish and the 60 shows red bars. My reversal is considered a confirmed 60 because I know that a red 60, like let's say it's an inside 60, an inside bar isn't an actionable signal. But if the inside 60, which is red, breaks down, now I'm starting to like I'm thinking, okay, this is a 2-1-2 or 3-1-2. The one is the red 60 and it's breaking to the downside. Then I will exit the trade. If it reclaims the low of that inside bar, then I'm playing that as a rev strat, right? So you got to be able to, right? And so for me, and this is the way I've like just having traded the strat for as long as I have, I didn't just want to take the first reversal. I want to see a confirmed reversal. So I need to know that it's turning down. So an inside 60 won't kick me out anymore. But an
um
inside 60 that breaks down, I'll get out on that. Or of invalidation of a level. Like let's say if I'm going long on this one here, right at the red line, then
Mm.
I will wait for, a 60 that goes against me in in that break. So let's say I got in
Oh.
on that one here. If I got in on this shooter day, right, and then it went against me, that would be. But then I'd be looking for reasons to get back in to the upside. This is actually a really good chart. Like I might even use this as my base case model, right? Because you can see how well it reclaims these levels here.
Can I take a shot real
Yeah,
quick?
yeah, go.
Okay, so I think I don't know if that answers your question easy, but what I was gonna say is that like I think we were talking about this maybe Friday with how I have my stops, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about how I use the 30s and 60s. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm using the monthly or I'm using the weekly, let's say I'm using the weekly, I enter on my two up, right? Typically for me, I'm imagining that that weekly is a 30 and 60. And think what I told you is that my stop is basically I need to see a candle that actually closes with the body against me.
Yep.
So if that next candle, that 3, you see how it wicks the bottom? I'm not out of it. I'm imagining it's a 30 and 60. If that week closes like red with the body of the red below and makes like 2 down from that 2 up, that's when I would be out. But I'm not saying that's the right answer. I'm saying that's my like
Mm-hmm.
level of risk tolerance because when I see the setup, I'm confident that the setup will go, and it's only when I have like for me what's definitive evidence, which is an actual close of the body on the next candle or a candle that goes against me, that's when I would be out. But again, that's my like level of risk. Whereas, the level of risk really goes from like conservative to aggressive, right? On the very like small end, you can use the entry, and you're gonna get stopped out over and over and over and over again. And the next level is when you have the continuity of your candle go from red to green or green to red. And then the next level is if the actual candle wicks against you but doesn't close against you, and then the level of that, I'm gonna go. Those are all the levels from like, entry all the way into like waiting for an entire candle to go against you, and maybe even waiting for a continuation of the next candle to, show it
Yeah.
wants to continue going against you. So, I mean, there's no right answer there. These are all just levels of thinking to yourself, how long am I gonna let the trade go until I know that it's not going my direction? Because at any point in those areas, it can reverse and actually show that you're right. But it's about how much room you want to give it before, you want to admit that you're not necessarily wrong, but at that moment not, you're wrong.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Did
I
that
hope you
help
guys.
answer your question? Did that help answer your question?
To some extent, yeah. I'll have to think about it more.
Okay, Shalonki, could you please pull up Payc, Payc?
Paycom software.
There you go.
Okay, that chart there. This is me. I took some very decent gains on PanW, looking, shopping, and Paycom, along with a few other HR companies, HR related companies, took a serious dump April, May, June of last year. So I decided I had an amount to reinvest. I wanted to make it long term, so I'm going to get shares. And the shares, when I buy, because this is how the type of trader I am when it comes to trading shares, I'm a long term hold, minimum 2 years, and I want to scale in at a third of what I want to invest at a time. So I pick it up a third now, a third later, and then a final third when I've decided it's continuing to go where I want it to go. Then my average cost on these shares was $148 per. Okay. There's times before I even bought into the third part that I was wondering, is it going to have another bad day and go back down? Do I need to be patient? And so that's the kind of questions I ask myself. And I'm still holding those shares. And my optimum for this company is to get back closer to 300 before I start scaling out and reinvest into another stock. But that's when it comes to common. That's
But
my
so
analogy. I have friends that buy big blocks all at once, all in. I'm not that kind of a trader.
So my take on this from a strat perspective is you've got the 3-2-2 month setting up, and as long as there's no reversals against, once we take out one side of the range, we're going to the other side of the range. And what does that look like? Is on the weekly, you've got the 3-2-2 that, 3-2-2 fun to say, fun to do. It's got to that magnitude, and now it's just got to expand that. It can't come back below the high of that outside week from before, and then you just start looking at your levels above, and these become, the target. So this is a classic sort of, broadening formation, expand to the upside. If it fails, then you're coming back down through, right? Because technically the month is still a downtrend. The bulls they're more aggressive, but this month is still a downtrend. We haven't got any higher highs yet. So yeah, I mean, I see the play here, and now we just got to wait and see what the continuity does. What does the flip do, right? So if the flip starts to go, and then you look at some of this PMG action up here, that's pretty sick. That's pretty cool. I like this. I'm gonna write it down.
Tasty on the fundamentals as the two or three other competitors in the same sector held up better through COVID than the other fellows. And they held up better through that last downturn when I first made my initial buy for two shares. So that's why I went with them and not with the other guy.
Actually, Slowpoke just had the best description of it that I've ever seen. When um, when Alex and even when Rob had taught it, they said, okay, so the monthly, these are the monthly guys, these are the weekly guys, here's the quarterly guys. Are the quarterly guys present on this chart right now? Yeah, but not super aggressive, right? The yearly guys took try, right? So and then you have the monthly guys, the weekly guys. So Slowpoke just said, here, I'll throw this up into just for the recording. I like to use the participant as my descriptor. I'm a monthly participant or a weekly participant, right? So in response to that, I would say I'm a 60 guy, and I want to play on the same team as the daily and the weekly. But I'll play against them if it's the right move. I'll play against the daily and the weekly, but it's got
I
to be.
like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Thank you for that. That was good. So yeah, if you're a monthly guy, you want to see this go 3-2-2 to the upside. So then you'd have what? This would be August, end of August. You'd be up at three and shit. Where did it go? 3 and 267.76 by the end of August, if it works. And if it doesn't get there in August, that just means it didn't get there by magnitude. So then the signal expires by time. It hasn't expired by price yet. But if you haven't got any reversals against you, then you can hang on. Take a little bit longer, but that was it. Anyone else want to do a trade review or throw out an idea? Go ahead. I'm done looking at tickers. I might just flip through a couple.
Blue Maroon, I might have missed it, but you reviewed something on OXA, OKTA.
Okta. I saw a couple mentions of this. So Okta got weekly magnitude, right? 2 up. Weekly took out a bunch of those pivots and then started to pull back. Finished the week with an outside 60, but yeah, it's still holding up there. So, let's look and see what the continuity of the week is. If the week starts and goes green, then you've got some of these targets still up here that haven't been taken out yet. and then ultimately into the gap, right? So this is where the
Yeah, I'm
continuity.
definitely interested on that for calls this week for scalp. If I have to get a 2 week out strike date, I'll still swing it this week only. I won't carry it past week.
Yeah, and you've got a knack for these. That if you're saying you're thinking calls, I'm definitely going to be paying attention to this. So I'm going to write it
Really good
down.
relative volume too on that day.
Yeah, look at the.
I'll be looking at calls for that and for Oklo, OKLO, and looking at another opportunity, even though it's kind of a long shot, uh, open calls as well, OPEN. That might just be an intraday play and not an overnight swing.
So Oklo finishes with an inside day at the highs. This is an interesting one, right? Like you can see this broadening formation here. It's absolute freaking perfection. I love this stuff, right? And so now the idea would be we're to reclaim this outside 60, get to the other side of it, and then expand.
Yep.
I like it a lot. Thanks, Frankie.
My pleasure. Thank you.
The options on this thing move like mad. It's definitely
Yeah,
not
they
for the
do.
faint of heart. Oh, okay. What time are we at here? 4 o'clock. At 3-2 week on Tempest.
Oh yeah, I think was it Buffett's grandson or whatever? He was posting a couple charts that were interesting. FSLR,
Yeah,
TEM,
I looked at
Reddit.
I looked at some of those too. Yeah, these are all actually his from the.
I agree that Reddit chart he had looks very interesting.
I don't know if I would take Dash. Dash seems like it's really, well, I don't know. On one hand, I think yeah, it could break out. On the other hand, I'm thinking we're at all-time highs, but it could go either way. If it goes two up and there's a lot of volume, yeah, why not?
I actually tried to short this guy from here, and I did well on these days, and then I didn't see this reclaim. So it's interesting. How long have I been doing this now? What? Probably about 3 weeks. I've been focusing on this idea of reclaim, so that would have kept me out of the short trade if I saw that. Fair
It
enough.
looks like it's trying to reclaim the lows, or it keeps trying to, at this point on the daily, it's like reclaimed it like what, one, two, three times almost.
Yeah, it's been very wiki. Oh, it's got earnings coming up Thursday morning,
Fun.
or sorry, Thursday evening. Let's look at Nvidia. Actually, let's look at the Mag 7. Let's do that. Um,
Yeah. Hammer on the week.
I'm-
All-time highs though. Careful.
did this thing switch over to all of my mag charts? I don't know. I can't see if it did.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right,
it did.
cool, 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 cool. So yeah, let's look at the weekly charts on these first. So outside week on Microsoft. This hammer week on Nvidia is crazy. Inside week on Meta. Two up with a wick. And like, look at how strong AMD closed compared to the rest of these, right? Look at how strong that is, and SMCI. That is some put your gas, hit the gas with your foot as hard as you can, man. These things are SMCI is gonna crank this week, I think. So the weekly charts look
I
quite good.
I have a habit of avoiding Apple and Microsoft on an FOMC week.
Yeah, we do have FOMC this week. That's right. And it's the end of the month in the summertime. So no excuses. There's still money out there, and we're going to find it and take it. Tesla, interesting. Outside weak. So how are we going to get out of this broadening formation? That's
Yeah, we close like really like straight in the middle of a three or the outside week, so I'm a little bit normally if it wasn't Tesla and it was another stock, I would just like not even look at it just because we have a high probability of just going inside week at that point. But it's Tesla, so you never know.
but see this range here on the daily,
Yeah,
right? So this range here gets taken out to the upside on that one. Wasn't weak enough to go the first time. We had a reversal, and I'm wondering if we come to the other side of this range now. So this would be an interesting target for the end of this week. Is
you looking for the
273.2.
downside
Yeah,
or the upside?
downside.
Hmm. You could argue that on the week it was um well, what happened on the week? On this week we
Oh,
went up and then we came down and then earnings happened and then we went back up.
intraday. Let's look.
So you could argue that it tried to go higher, couldn't do it. Now it's gone lower, couldn't do it, and now we have another shot at going higher. Uh,
So we had the gap on earnings, gap down, right? I mean, here's another way to. I just love looking at 60 charts because they show so much. Right, look at these levels here. This is literally almost perfection, right? This low here to these highs here. And so, if you take the price ranges, and I do this now and again, is I'll just pull horizontal lines where these levels are and use whole numbers as well, big numbers. So this is interesting, right? Is to the downside, we have this range to go through, and to the upside, we have this gap to fill, and then, that range to clear. But I don't think, like, even if we fill the gap on this, I don't think it's going to just continue to go up. But I've been wrong on Tesla so many times, so I'm not really.
this kind of reminds me of that. We were looking at SPY and that mother bar, right?
Yep,
That giant amount of price right there is
yep,
like the mother bar,
yep.
and now it's like this same scenario. Okay, now we're inside, right? So if we want it to go to the top side or upside, on one hand, if it like say let's say next week it goes up, it tests those highs, it can't do it, it reclaims, goes back down, it's gonna go into it's gonna now test to the bottom of the mother bar. Whereas what could happen next week also is it goes down, tries to make a low to break to the bottom of the mother bar. Can it do it? If it can't, then it's possible we have exactly like SPY where it just continues riding back up, you know?
Yeah. Like the trade on this one here
So
on
I like,
Friday was nuts, right? Is we
yeah,
reclaimed this previous week low, right? That was the reclaim, and I'll throw that in as such. That's the reclaim of the previous week low, and it was also the 2-2 trigger on the day at the same time, right? So we reclaimed the previous week low, triggers the 2-2 day, and we didn't get like this. I think Shanti even got a bunch of this on the move. So, like, to me, this is a confirmed reversal when it comes down again, right? So you got your first two down, second one is the reversal, and you're out.
yeah. So at this point, we could see maybe Monday, right? It
Yeah,
goes two down, and then can give continuation, or it's possible that we get turnaround Tuesday where that two down suddenly gets reclaimed and we go back two up. So just gonna have to see what price action does for us.
yeah. How's it gonna open, right? Let them open, see the continuity, and then play the 30s and 60s. It's got to be the easiest way to play the strat, or I guess the way to survive the longest, right? Is when you're playing the 30s and 60s, you'll have to be able to keep your stops small if you're playing common. Options is a different story. Double inside
Baba
month on
call
Tesla.
options are on my watch list.
Shopify.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that one.
I think we looked at Spotify. Shopify, yeah, I looked at this one as well. It's on my list.
I like it because I mean I took it I think the pre not this week but the previous week to that, and
Yep.
then it hits 129.05 or whatever that target number it is. This week it kind of does a little, I would say it's a TTO at this point. Tries to go lower, reclaims, right? And now you have a 2-1, well, we had a 2-1-2 that basically occurred on Friday. But what are we trying to do at this point, right? We're trying to at least perhaps next month go 2 up and then try to take out those targets above. We're still in force on the quarter as well.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, this is cool. There's another mother bar right here I just saw. Um, this guy here.
Yeah, I like it. I mean,
Right. Okay, I'm gonna write that one down too. And I'll narrow down this list. I don't think there's any reason anybody needs to watch this many tickers. This is just a sort of a bucket.
oh heck no.
Yeah, I don't have the brains to keep track of that shit.
I will go a minimum of 2 weeks out if I go with Baba calls on Monday or Tuesday.
Baba?
Yes, sir, Baba.
Let's look at why don't we look at all the Chinese guys? Baba, Baidu, JD, Pinduoduo,
Open
or PDD.
list. Where'd they go?
Interesting. Is the Chinese market HSI open yet? Or Chinese futures? Or Hong Kong futures?
I don't know.
It's 1 p.m. here. I don't think they're not open yet.
No, it says Monday, July 28th, futures are trading?
Futures may be trading, but the regular market another 4 hours, I think, until they open.
Yeah, I think you're right. Futures are 2 down and green.
PG, before we jump into the Chiners, let's look at that. For next month? Yeah, look at this.
Looks pretty good. Yeah.
This
If
is
Especially if this month we can turn that 2 down and red into a 2 down and green before the start of next month, that would be really nice.
I mean, the signal's already there, right? So it's reclaimed the previous month low. The signal happened on, well, Tuesday and confirmed again on Friday. They have
Yeah, it looks
earnings
pretty good.
on Tuesday morning.
Yeah, that's the only downside, I guess.
How am I going to do this? I won't trade it before earnings, but I want to. Okay, I'm going to put it on. So it's Tuesday morning. I'll put it on my calendar. PG Tuesday morning. Right on.
Baba?
Yeah, let's go back to Baba.
Interesting. I'm gonna just look at Baba and then 9988, which is the Chinese ticker side as well, just to see a little more.
Yeah, this is where continuity is really going to matter, right? Like they printed this and look at it took out the highs of this three here and failed on the week.
I
So,
don't know. I really wanted to test and see if it can test those. There's like 2 more daily levels below where we're currently at. I really want to see it kind of test those 2 levels before I see what happens or get into a trade.
yeah,
Because if it can, like, ideally, you get like a giant 2 down and green that like goes past those 2 levels, fills the gap, and then I'm like, oh, that looks like a really nice, like, broadening formation on like a smaller time frame.
yeah, yeah. This one whips fast though. I don't trade Baba.
Yeah.
I have done which one was it? JD. I've done JD with limited success. but again, I can't claim to have made any serious money trading any of these China names.
JD, yeah, that's what I kind of want to see Baba do, like a 2 down in green, and then see some continuation for tomorrow, if it can go up, or if it just keeps going and wants to close the gap lower
I mean,
on the daily.
same broadening formation as the one that Baba had here, right? It took out this past
Yeah.
week, took out those highs, and then you can see it on the weekly, potentially failing back down. But there's this China news, so yeah, expand this range. That's like I haven't done any research to validate if that news is true or if China's agreed or I don't know. I mean, who knows, right? So I'll just let price tell me.
My
He,
one of my best habits with Baba is to keep a loose stop until the middle of the trading day. Then I tighten it up because that's when it has the potential to do a reverse from de facto gain.
Mm,
PDD looks a little bit more interesting on the daily, I'd say.
yep.
Perhaps have a 2 down, 2 up. On the month, let's see, on the month, 2 up. On the quarter, yeah, on the quarter you might be able to get to 2 up and then perhaps, hit that target as well and break out of this mother bar situation on the monthly.
Cool.
And then Baidu, I guess.
Where's Baidu? There it is.
Let's see.
I don't know if any of you guys looking at tech saw the EU trade deal. NQ is expected to gap up like 120 points currently. Just FYI. So if you're a
Ooh, I
bear,
like it. I like it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Nice.
I wouldn't be bearish going. I mean, maybe we sell, but market is expected to gap up when futures open. At least NQ. I don't know about ES, but just a heads up for the
Let's
bulls.
markets open at futures open at 6, right?
Yes, sir.
You're gonna be on?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'll join you.
Anything else interesting out there? I just hopped on. I saw you guys were
Cool.
Yeah,
streaming.
Indiana
Oh,
Fever
yeah.
is leading 63 to 54 against Chicago.
Say that again.
Indiana Fever is leading Chicago 63 to
Uh,
54.
all right.
Right on.
I don't have any money on sports games. Sports betting for me is that's the only time I get too much. Unless the Philly teams are playing, then I'm interested. But yeah.
Nah, Tom, we covered a lot of tickers, but quite a few setups to the upside looking like. Be cool to see what happens on Monday if we're gonna get a gap up.
Yeah, I mean, we can, just because futures gaps up at Globex Open doesn't mean that things can't, completely reverse and sell off. I'm just, as a futures trader on a Sunday, I'm hyped up to see, what looks like volatility. That's the name of the game for me. That's when I trade well. When things are like I get crushed when I get impatient in a sideways market. It absolutely destroys me. So I'm trying to get better at learning to walk away when things aren't moving, just saying like, all right, this is not for me, So highly recommend that for anybody else out there who tends to get their teeth kicked in when things are just kind of slugging along, grinding. It's not really my type of market. So yeah, we'll see how things go into the Monday New York Open. But
I had
I'm
a side
excited for it.
question.
I'm liking MRVL as a weekly setup,
Yeah.
right? Is it's reclaimed this range 3-1 on the week to the upside, and with all this tech news, for sure, I'm uh, I'm liking that as a focus for the week.
Quick question. I don't know if anyone of you or anyone has experience with it. Does anybody ever use level 2 death charts or death markets or stuff like that, looking at the granular information there?
I don't.
Time
I
of
have
sales.
I have briefly on futures. I haven't really put enough time into it. I mean, I've glanced at it. You know, like like 90% of my trading is strat. Occasionally, I'll use VWAP, like on smaller time frames. If there's no real strat target and we're just kind of in the middle of nowhere, I look at like that as an area of interest. I think it can be helpful. You know, I mean, if you've got like on futures, for example, if you've got, you know, occasionally I would see 500, 500 orders at a certain level. Somebody wants to, you know, likely get filled, and sometimes you know, those levels act like magnets. But I didn't really put enough time into it. It's kind of something I want to circle back to. Because you know that's where the big boys are putting money now. Like when it comes to stocks, I've never really paid attention to it, but for futures, you know, when I'm trying to get a gauge of where the market was going, or uh, you know, it is kind of fascinating. I think there are a lot of ways to play this game. So when I see strat setups and like maybe there's a target where there's a huge um, set of orders sitting in the DOM, then that kind of piques my interest. But you know, I tend to just focus on the strat stuff and not overcomplicate things. But it does pique my interest for sure.
Yeah, I was just curious, just because I mean, I mainly focus on the strat, but I mean, I've seen people's like videos on it, and it seems like people use it for like scalp trading and like, but I'm curious if it can help actually with like timing your entries or figuring out if like, the stock that you're or your stock or options, whatever that you're in, have like, are you gonna break out, or if they've peaked and you should probably like find a place to sell. I don't know if that's what I'm asking and wondering if anyone's
I
had
mean,
experience with it.
yeah, I think the thing for me is it's like an area of interest, right? Just like strat targets, we can rip through them and keep going, or you can get a reversal there, hit exhaustion, and turn around. Like just because there's a 500 lot sitting at a level on ES or NQ doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get filled and we're going to pull back. But it is an area where I start to pay attention to how price reacts at those areas. Just like when we hit, like if I'm taking a strat domino trade, right? And I'm gonna, I'm
Chicken Momo. Okay. I paneer tikka masala with butternut almond. Itu sekedar best mom.
Mute.
Frankie? Frankie? Not sure if you can hear me. I've muted him, but
Can you mute him?
I don't know if I can mute it for everybody.
That worked.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Or I don't know if he muted himself. I don't know.
Maybe he did. That's cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, depth of market, that's just standing orders, and it's that, if you see a level hold, that's all that's happening there is that large lot order is still sitting there and hasn't been absorbed yet. And then you just gotta kind of just wait, and that's
Yeah.
right. I don't know. I mean, I know how to read it, but I've never done. I think it's only useful for intraday scalp trading. I don't think it's useful for longer term stuff. Longer term stuff, I would think the volume profile is probably more accurate or useful than depth of market.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
kind of I kind of agree. I also, real quick, I'll just make one last comment on this and then I'll shut up. Those orders can just get pulled just as easily
Right.
as they get.
Right.
You know what I mean? So somebody puts a 500 lot in, then price starts going up there. Sometimes you'll see that
spoofing.
500
Yep.
lot move up 10 or 20 points. So, it doesn't. It's something to kind of pay attention to. I look at it like anything else with trading. There's no kind of set levels where you're going to get clear answers. Like gamma exposure levels, I've kind of explored them a little bit where market makers may have to adjust inventory because they're trying to stay delta neutral. So if price starts pushing in one direction, they may have to kind of adjust their positioning. But anything can happen at those zones. It's just like I like to say, like, all right, like this just means I need to kind of be on alert here, right? Let's see how price reacts. That's it, right? I'm not like, all right, it hits this level, I'm going short, or it hits this level, I'm going long. It's just like let's see what happens at this price point. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking for, like, I think I brought out the example, but I was looking at PANW and I was trading it on Friday, and I got kicked out on this Fiverr before it literally just went. And I'm wondering if, like, is there something that can give me an edge in like recognizing, no, that's just a small term correction and you can really hold on to it still. Yeah, if you go onto the Fiverr Solanke, you'll be able to see it.
Here, let's do the fiber on this one. So there's the Fiverr,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And if I had that as like a marked target area, and so it like went above my target, and then Fiverr closes, makes an actionable, signal against me, and also like closes as well. So at that point I exited, but then I'm thinking to myself like, is there something I could have looked at and recognized like, nope, that's just a short-term correction and you should hold through that. I mean, obviously I can stick to a higher time frame like a 30 or 60, but if I'm using like 0 DTEs, right? I don't know, that's probably my exit right there. So, I don't know if I should be beating myself up or if I should be like, that was the smart play and because sometimes you always look at these things and you're like, oh man, I could have gotten so much more, right? But on the other hand, you're like, no, you did the smart thing, even though it kept going, you never know, and it could have just kept going and reversing against you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, trading is easy in hindsight. You can't play the coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? You make a decision in the moment. If you're not comfortable with where you're at and it looks like it's moving against you and you get out and then it keeps going. I mean, that's what happens. You know what I mean? Like that's the game that we play sometimes. So I don't think you can beat yourself up. I think you just, we make the best calls that we can with the information that we have at the time, and then whatever happens, happens. Sometimes you catch a crazy move. Sometimes it reverses. You're glad you got out. So you know.
Yeah, but that I understand what you guys are saying. It's just I'm trying to be curious. I'm trying to look for more information out there. Like
Yeah.
a lot of times it's like, okay, do you know if price is going to go up or down? And one person will say like, oh, you never know. You just have to go with the flow. Another person will say, well, there's certain clues and things that you can look for that obviously there's never anything that's going to be a guarantee, but there are things that you can look at. And I'm just kind of wondering like, are there other things that I can look at? Because one thing I did notice, and if you switch on the volume, just a regular volume on your 5-minute Solanke, is that candle, the red candle, was a really low volume red candle, right? In comparison to like
Mm.
all the volume that was building. So you see like all the volume on the Fiverr, it's going up, it's
Yep.
going up, it's
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
up.
Yep.
And then you just out of nowhere have this Fiverr that's like really small volume. Now, if that red Fiverr had like huge volume, then I'd be like, yeah, that's definitely like a good exit. Like I don't know what you did, Andy, like, but that was the exit. But because it's so small, and I didn't have my volume switched on at that point because I was just thinking like, it's whatever, it's just volume, and especially on a lower time frame, it doesn't matter. But you can see that it's a really low volume 5. So I don't know if that's a clue to me that like you might want to just wait for a continuation. If the next candle keeps going 2 down in red at all and goes below the low, then yeah, that's an exit.
Are you always trading 0 DTEs, or it just happened to be on Friday?
No, I had both. I had both 0 DTs and I had next week's as well. I closed out all
Okay.
my 0 DTs at that point, but I did leave my longer time frame, like next week's, to just keep going.
I mean, I think on 0 TDs you have to be more cautious or willing to let it. Like I think Drea talks about all the time. She's willing to like kind of eat some of those. The price fluctuations can be pretty wild. So like I think if you're being, you like I learned from a much more experienced trader than me. Like he would always say, you have to decide if you're being aggressive or conservative, right? Are you being aggressive as an aggressive trader or a conservative trader? And if you're playing conservative and you've got 0 DTEs and you want to protect yourself, then you just have to exit on a 5-minute, or 15-minute or whatever it is you're trading. Like I tend to try and avoid those shorter term options for that reason. I mean, yeah, they can be very lucrative, but I like a 5-minute moving against me is not enough for me to get out of a position. Like even on NQ, like I'm usually I need to see a really like a 15-minute reversal against. But if you're 0 DTE, I mean that can be a super costly. You don't want to sit through that drawdown. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it was a 0 DT that was a swing from like a previous day or two.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
still
Tom, you
made
still doing the
profit on it.
funded stuff? Or you You mentioned.
Yeah, man, I made a mistake. I made a mistake on my IRA, my options trading account. I mean, I have a long term. I don't really trade it that often, but I was dabbling my toe a bit when I was, like after I was locked out of my funded accounts, and I had my P&L and my balance and all my all the the numbers turned off, right? And I traded using unsettled funds, and then I got a message from Schwab that I can't trade the account for
CFE.
90 days because I traded unsettled cash. So
Good
that
faith
really pissed me
violation.
off.
Yep.
I don't know why they don't just block you from doing that in Thinkorswim. Like, it seems like an easy thing that they would just block you from doing if you're not paying attention to you're just entering in and out of positions. I would expect it just says like, hey, you don't have funds available to trade. I don't ordinarily trade as much as I did that day, but yeah, it kind of pissed me off. So now I'm like sidelined from any kind of options trading for about another 2.5 months or so. So now I'm just doing the funded thing, which I've become addicted to
Can
futures.
you
Futures is really, I just love futures. It's way less tickers.
And you're so
I
good
don't know.
at it. You're so good.
Your option a trading account on Schwab, is it a cash account or a margin account?
It's a cash account. It's a retirement account. So
They
good
give
faith
me
violation?
notifications when I am going to trade with unsettled funds. It's right there when I want to buy the contract. It'll give me a warning. Hey, you're trying to buy something that if you open and close it today, you're going to get flagged.
on what platform? What are you using?
I'm using Thinkorswim on Charles Schwab.
Are you? Then maybe there's a setting for it that I don't have turned on. I'll look into that. I appreciate the heads up on that because I got no warning, man. It just let me trade. I was trading some pretty significant size on SPY. Uh, and
And give them a phone call. They normally will give you a pass on your first,
I think
trip,
I
something
already
like
did
that.
that though, like a year ago or something. But I might reach out to them again.
If it's been a year or more, they'll give you another pass.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been with
I'll
them
check
for
out.
about
I'll check
5
that out
years
this week
now.
because yeah, it sucks. There's some things that I've really been keeping an eye on that it's just like, damn, I can't. I really do like to swing trade. Like the last real great trade that I made was I picked up some SPY and QQQ when tariffs were at an when the markets were complete fear, dumped 30% back in April or whatever it was, and I had a really great trade, and so I was keeping my eye on doing some more swing trading, in addition to trading futures, but where I don't really have to be keep an eye on it. Like I'll look at it on a daily basis or whatever, but I'm not jumping in and out of positions. And it sucks that I can't do that now. So I'll reach out to them. I appreciate that. It's a good suggestion. I've considered it. I was just like, you know what, F it. I don't really care, but it kind of does bug me. So I
Yeah.
might,
Another thing
I'll see if,
was
yeah,
when
I'll
I
see if
used
they'll
to
let
do
me
that.
slide.
When I used to do that, and I was noticing why I was doing it, because I was just too busy. So when I'm aware of it being a thing to chance unsettled funds, I won't enter that contract till it's the last hour of the day. That way I don't accidentally turn around and go and close it. I purposely
Yeah,
do it because I want to swing it. So that's helped me too, because I was tripping over that a lot in the beginning, like the first year back in 2021. And they were like, we can only give you so many chances, Mr. Garza. You know. And
right.
I said, well, my insurance can whip your insurance company, so don't threaten me, okay? So they give me the pass, okay?
Yeah, I'll check that out this week. I'll reach out and see if I can get that squared away.
Worst case, can you just transfer your funds to another broker?
I could. It's just I've
Yeah,
got a
you want
pretty
to keep everything
significant.
consolidated. Yeah, yeah. I hear you.
Yeah, and I've already got like I've got my long term. I have a long term Ethereum and Bitcoin position in that account, and I just don't. I like Thinkorswim. I mean, I really like their platform. I like Active Trader. I just haven't since I switched to futures about 12 months ago. I haven't really traded, and so I got a little click happy and just wasn't really paying attention, and was trading like 30, 40, 50 like SPY options for a good chunk of change. And I had I had my P&L and my balance blocked out because I don't want to pay attention to that. I try not to on that account because it does impact my trading. So I just keep it blocked out, and yeah, I didn't realize that that had happened. So it sucks, but
So
it's
that
whatever.
that thing flags me right when I have to hit confirm this trade. I'll see all the little extra. It's very very tiny print, but it's like a little paragraph. I go, what's this? Oh shit, I haven't settled funds yet. So then I'll just say, no, I'm gonna hold it. And
Yeah, I didn't get any of that. So
I'm not
maybe
gonna risk it.
that's on me. That's all. I'll tell them like, hey, why don't you guys give me a warning? And they'll say, oh, you got to turn this on, and then I'll be like, all right, well, please forgive me. You know, let me resume trading in this account,
Yeah,
please. But
tell him Frankie G said you could get the pass, okay?
yeah,
And
all right, I'll let them
and
know.
I got
and tell
a
him mea culpa, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa, okay?
I got a question for Tom, real quick.
Fire away.
I'm sure you've been asked this before, but what differences do you see with when you're applying the strat with options trading versus futures trading?
I
What are
trade crypto, stocks, futures, everything the same way. When I trade options, I'm not, I'm charting the underlying. So, if I was trading Tesla options, I'm looking at just Tesla, the stock, and making decisions based on that. Same way I trade crypto. I pretty much trade the same way no matter what instrument I'm trading. Or
do you use the
what
same time frames also between like
same
stock?
time frame, same everything. I mean, I'm on the 5 minute, 5, 15, 30, 60, 4 hour, 12 hour day and week are my go-tos. Like my main screen is 8 time frames, and then for futures execution, I also have the tick chart up, which I kind of like. It just gives me very very tight stops. But yeah, I mean it's same time frame, same everything, same process, same futures. I want with the only differences on futures, I use a set like number of points for my stop on initial entry, and on things like crypto and stocks or options, I kind of use more like smaller time frame market structure. Like I'm trying to get in on always trying to get in on a small time frame, like a 5, a 15, a 30. But the thing that has changed most for me in the last year is I'm mostly looking for setups on the 60, the 4 hour, and the 12 hour. I mean the day too, but you only get one daily setup per day, right? So I like to trade more than that. So I really, really like the 12 hour and the 4 hour and the 60. And so, if there's a great setup on a 60 or a 4 hour, then I look for ways in on a 5, 15, 30. And those are my best trades because I'm getting the most. They usually have more magnitude than just taking like a 5 or a 15-minute setup. And I have more faith in trusting that what the higher time frames are doing. If the day is green, the 12 hours green, the 4 hours green, and there's a bullish like 60 setup, maybe there's 4 hour magnitude or 12 hour magnitude or daily magnitude. I just stick with what the higher time frames are doing. Sometimes, they pull back. I get a little worried, but I'm like, probability wise for me, like trusting what the higher time frames are doing, I'm with those players. I want to be in line with what those participants are doing. So I don't really like if there's just a 5 or a 15-minute setup. I usually don't take that. I mean, I will occasionally. I usually regret it. I trade much better when I'm shooting for a higher time frame magnitude because I'm also looking for, like on futures, I'm looking for 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 points. You're not going to get that these days during summer trading, on a 5 minute chart. Back in April with tariffs, I mean, some 5 minute candles were 50, 80 points. It was crazy. But like right now, NQ all day, I think on Friday was, what was it, maybe 100 points, 145 points.
Cool, cool. Thanks for your thoughts.
Yeah, man. My pleasure.
I took a
How's
lot
your
of this.
trading going? Have you been doing well? Everybody's doing well, struggling? Anyone really having
I've
a
been
shitty week or go? I know it's been very tricky this summer, at least for me, compared to how it was, back in April, May.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that. How I mean, I've been noticing, so I've been trying to find things outside of the strat to really help. And one of the things I mentioned earlier on the stream was that like there are just certain days where like you can find really good setups and stocks, but they just don't seem to move. And so I was taking a look at something called relative volume. So, that's one of the things I'm going to start trying to use is, if I have a ticker, it's got a good entry and it has good relative volume that, stays high and continues to build, then that's something I'm going to like continue to look at. And if there's days where like, everything just has low relative volume, then maybe I just don't even want to look at that ticker. But I'm just trying to look for other things outside of the strat at this point that, can give me an edge.
Yeah, a
Um,
little clue that something's gonna move.
yeah.
Do you ever
That is
use
the
the
one.
squeeze? John Carter's The Squeeze. He's got some free indicators on TradingView and Toss. It's called TTM. Basically
I've
shows
used.
when,
Yeah, I've used that in the past. TTM squeeze. That's
What is
that's
yeah.
it?
that's a.
So what does it do, or what does it help you like look at?
It's basically it's crap. I forgot the something behind it. ATR something stacking. I don't know what it is, but
So
basically before the explosive moves happen, it'll
It uses
ramp up and then
Bollinger Bands and Keltner
yeah,
channel.
yeah, I think something that
yeah,
too. Yeah.
And when things start to get tight, like that's kind of how I like. I like inside bars. So when things tighten up, we get tightening ranges, double inside bars, or just an inside bar on like a 4 hour or 12 hour. Those are like my favorite setups, and it's very similar. It just shows you where price is kind of compressing, and then you're likely to see an explosive move.
I probably have.
Oh, I
Right,
see.
right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think we can already kind of see that, like when you have, I think I've gotten to a point where it's not really strat, but you can definitely see setups where it's like, they're riding the 10 or the 20 EMA and they're just like, compressing, the range is getting smaller and smaller, and you have on the like higher time frames a really bullish looking, chart. But
I
that's
spent a
pretty cool. I'll take a
long
look at it.
time with the TTM squeeze, and it does work. And really, essentially, all it does is just, in a nutshell, it uses the Keltner channels. When the Keltner channel, which shows the standard deviation of the move, falls within the Bollinger Band, which is another calculation of deviation. So when the one compression goes inside another, it's an indication that the market is compressing or narrowing. And in my world now, I just call that inside previous range, right? Like that's essentially what it's doing, is it's likely causing an inside bar on some other higher time frame. And so when I discovered that, I'm like, you know what, this is what I like about the strat, is it gives me absolute levels that I can trade. Like it's, for example, this one here in Zoom, right? If you look at the weekly chart on Zoom, it's got a rev strat set up to the downside. On the daily, it's got some wicked pivots below. You can see the top end of the broadening formation, or if you're a channel trader, you can see, well, there's a channel there. Is it going to break down? So you can see this potentially, break down, come back, retest, and then go. But we've got a 2 down in force on the month. But if you look at the John Carter squeeze, somewhere in here, you'll get a signal, right? It'll be there. But I I do think, if you're looking for something else, TTM squeeze is not a bad suggestion at all. It's very good.
What time frame do you usually use it at?
So John Carter himself, I did a weekend course with, through him, paid like $1,000 for it back in the day. It's He uses it on the 5 minute.
I think it's comparable to how we would trade the strat, right? If you're a short term trader, you're probably looking at like the 15, 30, 64 hour. If you're a swing trader, you're probably looking at like the day, week, month. So I think it's very similar in that regard.
Yeah, it seems like what I would do is I'd probably have like, the certain key areas of interest on a higher time frame, and then obviously you're on the lower time frame, you have the squeeze indicator out there, and then you're just kind of is the basis of it to try to like buy in when it's at the bottom or like a certain top or when it changes color or something like that.
Yeah, when the colors are building up and it's like a or on my settings, I don't use it all the time, but like dark blue settings, and the darker it gets as it's building up. When it hits like yellow or something, then it's already kind of done its move. But
I would, if you're curious about it, I would do like what I've done with VWAP and using a little bit of I've added market profile just on my small time frame on my 5-minute chart, right? So I can see where point of control is, and it's very similar to VWAP for me. If we're above, it's kind of bullish, and yes, the point of control can move around. I put it on my chart. I trade my normal strat stuff, and I see if I can find any confluence using some of those indicators. So I've noticed like when I see prices above point of control on a 5-minute and I'm looking for a bullish setup, those tend to be higher probability kind of trades. So like it's something, if you're looking for something new to kind of like add confluence to your trading, throw it on a chart, keep an eye on it, see how it kind of fits in. You know, you don't have to take trades off of it, but you can just observe and see if it makes sense for you to use. If it doesn't, get rid of it, you know.
So what I might
So
add
I'm
is the thing that I've added to my strat arsenal was just focusing on one other thing, which is continuity of the flip. Because going back to your depth of market ladder question, like, is it useful? What the continuity of the flip tells me is who's got the ball right now. That's all I care about, right? So then I can,
100%.
right? That to me is, I think, probably the most underrated strat element. That's why Rob always would talk about it, right? Mind the flip, because it can change.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm always looking at like 5 to 10 minutes before the next hour flip, and
Yeah,
that's always like a key area where have we peaked? Do we hit target?
right. And
If we
if
did, is that a time to get out?
right,
Yeah.
and then what's the next two? And what does that create, negate, or do? Not just in the current time frame, but what does that create, negate, or do in other time frames? Like if this day, or sorry, if this 60 magnitude works, if it works, then what does that do to the day? If that happens, then what does that do to the week? Sometimes, and most times, it does nothing, right? But sometimes you'd be like, oh, this is the 60 that's going to make it work. And that's why, like, I find similar story to you is I get chopped out when I'm playing options so often that I just said, screw it, I'm just going to stick to the SPX and the Mag 7 because they're so liquid. I can get in and out rather quickly and easily, and then just do that. And so doing reclaims and continuity of the flip has been helping me with figuring out what's going to move and what isn't.
Yeah. I mean, I get chopped up like I don't know, it feels like with my strategy, I have a pretty like low win rate, but then the thing is that when I do get a win, then I get something like 200, 300, 400, whatever percent, and I just end up profitable. But I'm just trying to, with that type of strategy, I have to remain confident and just take the entries when I have a good setup. But I'm also just trying to fine tune it and like, increase my win rate just a little bit so that these paper cuts don't, over time hurt me as much. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, I've actually started widening my stop a little. I used to trade really really tight stops on futures, and I've just widened them a tad because I was dealing with too many paper cuts. Like I would stop out, 2, 3, 4 times, which isn't the end of the world if you finally catch the move and it pays. But I would often be right on the direction and maybe just a little off on the timing. And so, options degen, who's always in our funded chat, he's a futures trader too. He trades with a much wider stop. So I've tried to adapt my strategy a little bit so I don't take as many paper cuts. Like, all right, maybe it's fine to stop out once or twice, but maybe stopping out like 3 or 4 times was starting to get a little painful because I would end up catching really great trades, but they ended up not paying as well because I was mostly making back or recovering some losses from trying to get in the first place. Where if I had just a little bit of a wider stop, I wouldn't have had to take the paper cuts in the first place. So I think you're on the right track with trying to figure out like and adapt to what works and not stopping out excessively, working on timing, finding better entries, and then making those big wins when they pay. You're not just recovering a large loss as part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I in general have a pretty wide stop. Like I think I've told others that pretty much when I get into the position, I'm waiting for like a full either 30 or 60 to actually close against me and have the body like, below the, whatever the low or the high of the previous.
Sure.
Um, yeah, but I just like to give it a lot of room because even if because of I know I have all the setups on the day, the month, the quarter, whatever, then I like to just give it that room. But
Yeah.
there are just some days in particular where I notice where it's like, yeah, I should just not trade it that day. I took like 3 or 4 tickers. They all had solid setups, and they all just kind of like, went up a little and then just traded kind of inside or didn't do much at that point. And if I had just waited a day or, looked at another ticker like Oklo that just had like great relative volume on Thursday, on Wednesday, then I would have been better off.
I think for me, that's one of the. I mean, it's you hear people talk about it all the time. Knowing when not to trade is an underrated skill in my book. Like knowing when the market is just kind of sucky and sitting it out and walking away and shutting it down is very difficult for me to do because with most things in life, it's like the harder you grind, and if you sit here, just bulldozing through whatever it is that you're working on, any kind of project, usually you can be successful. But with trading, oftentimes that isn't the case. It's better just to say like, all right, today ain't it. Let me pack it in and walk away instead of taking losses, right? I'll just, wait for a much better day where the opportunity is there. So it's I think that just comes with time and experience and just not being so anxious to trade, like all the time. I mean, that's kind of how my brain is like, all right, let's go, let's go, let's go. Sometimes it just makes sense to dial it back and say, all right, you take a couple shots, right? They don't work. You're like, all right, that's it's not working today, right? But for me, sometimes I get caught in, well, maybe it'll work on the next flip or the next flip, or let's wait for the next 4 hour. Let's wait for the new 60. Sometimes the day just is not, the market's not trending. It's.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. I mean, that's part of like psychology too, which is like something I worked on either it was like a week or two ago, where you don't want to get stuck in the mindset of, oh, this trade's not working, oh, this trade's not working, and you want to take an approach of like, I have a good system, I have rules, and I know that if I follow those rules, then over a series of like what 10, 20, 30, whatever, 50 trades, I'm going to be successful, and my focus shouldn't be on whether the trade is working or not. It should be on making sure I execute my rules, right?
That's
What
that's
do you usually
really.
trade? What?
Oh,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
No,
And I
you're
was just
good. I've been yapping
I
enough.
was just, oh, I was just gonna ask, what setups do you typically look for? Like, what do you usually
So I
trade?
usually trade like weeklies. So and then sometimes I'll take like up to 3 weeks out in terms of my options.
But
Uh,
but I mean, like,
what what what
what strat?
exactly?
Yeah.
I trade pretty much like anything that gives me a good setup, honestly. I'll trade anything. So I'll trade like so you can see on my watch list I have like inside up, inside down, outside up, two down green, hammer, or um, shooters, two up and red. So I can pretty much trade like anything, and I'm pretty good at looking at like, the overall full time frame continuity, what the setup is, where we are on the broadening formation. Um, and like on my other Discord, I usually do post my like charts and my entry. Well, I don't post them like in real time, but I usually come to the end of the day. It's kind of like my trading journal where I just post like, okay, took this trade, it didn't go well. Where I took Okta last week, I tried to swing it. Tuesday or Monday, I got stopped out, and then I'm out. Or I'll be like, I took Palo Alto Network, last week. That one really worked. Got out at this point, cut a third, at this point. So that I usually just trade like any kind of setup as long as it's there. Um, but I don't think I'm having trouble like in that sense. It's just, I have a setup, but they just don't work sometimes, or they just don't work that day, and then I just cut the position.
Sure, Bear, did you ever have any success with the TTM squeeze? And if you did, do you have any kind of hacks? Because I think it's a very useful tool if you know how to use it, but I don't.
That's funny you ask because when you said you took his course, because I was in his thing for a while, and every time you talk about like, you spent a lot of money on the courses, like, yeah, don't even tell me about it. It's just such a,
It's almost embarrassing,
I
eh?
don't want to say waste. Yeah, but I think
Is it like
overall for
Elliott wave
me,
theory?
That was the worst one.
no, but I probably have some things that top that, so let's not go there. But for me, I think the biggest shift is like understanding. I think a couple of weeks ago, it really started to click. Like I knew it in my head, wait for your setup, wait. But now it's like, oh, now I know what I'm looking for. So if I don't see it, I won't take it. And being patient is also like it's that's starting to click in. And so I'm like, oh man, I'm finally starting to understand. And now it's like we're at all-time highs, and it's the summertime, so it's not. So I was a little bit disappointed about that, but I know it's gonna come around again. So, and I think that's why the PNW worked out for me last week. And so yeah, I think just the things that we hear, but it starts to click. Like wait for the stuff, know what you're looking for. And then a lot of people are saying, be good at one thing, and so that's yeah. But yeah, I'm sorry. Going back to the squeeze, I don't, because I would just he would call out, and I would just kind of follow along, and then every time there's a retrace, then I would hop out. So I never really got to learn it, but I have just as a confluence when I'm watching
Hmm.
the strat just to see if it goes along. But yeah, nothing of value that I could add. So long-winded answer, no. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I mean, it's I think that's helpful to me because what it helps me to also see is that ultimately these levels that we've learned about in terms of the strat is really what matters the most, and then the continuity of the flip, because that's going to tell you how price is moving, right? If it's
Yeah, yeah,
small bars, then there isn't much aggression by one side, and once the bars start to get bigger, then you know that one side's hitting the bid or the offer.
yeah. And just a kind of background for me, I came from ICT after I got out of the whole just regular indicator stuff. So I have that background, and then it took me a while to get that mental shift to going to strat. But now that I'm getting the strat and I have the ICT background, like I can see that both like as it's going. So that's kind of my confluence. But
What concepts in
um
ICT do you find useful, if I may ask? Because I studied ICT for like 2 years as well.
yeah, I mean all the PD arrays like that's starting to pop out now that especially now I'm doing the strat. But the fair value gaps and the order blocks and the market maker models like that'll help me see what direction it's going. So that'll help me stay in the trade.
Yeah,
Then it also helps me see where the retraces are, and so I know it's just a pullback and not a complete reversal.
yeah.
Those things.
Hmm.
But even if I
So
didn't
you
have
did
that, if I just had the
so you did like ICT and it worked for you, and you're just hoping to get more consistency before you found the strat.
no, it didn't work for me because I then it became like too much information. So I'm looking for too many things. I didn't have like a particular setup that I was looking for. Now I knew a little bit of everything. And so I would just get jerked around all over the place. And Strat just keeps it really simple. And I like how Drea
Okay.
trades. She just keeps it down to, her main tickers and watching how those things move on a weekly basis. And so you kind of it's not just a strat itself, but knowing how that particular ticker moves, on a typical basis, I think is really important. So I'm trying to narrow down
That's
like that
great.
as well.
I really like your analogy on the ICT. I only spent maybe 3 months into it, and I love to do it all at once. I was overwhelmed with the information, so I kind of got out of it before I ever gave it a chance. But for you to give me clarity on it's a lot of stuff. I found out less information, the better trade I make. I found out in my first year of trading, which full year, which was 2021, that it's dangerous to overtrade. I fell back into that last summer because I was bored, and thanks to Tom, who's great at every time he's calling out, "Hey, don't do this. I just did this. Don't do that," and it reminded me why I had such a suck summer last year. This summer, I'm trading less, but I'm making more. and I'm much more happier with that outcome.
Yeah, I'm gonna say of all the things I've ever done, if I could only pick one and I never knew anything else, it would be the strat.
That
But IC2 helps, but
that's so
just
cool.
strat alone,
That's so cool.
yeah.
I don't know if
So
you
And give
if you
yourself credit, Share Bear, for the fact that you didn't just half-ass do the ICT. You really took it on, and you still gained or gleaned information off of that. Where I think if you would have given it more time, yeah, you probably would have excelled at it. But remember, you were still good at what you were putting your head around, wrapping your head around that, and being good at that has made you better at the strat. So that's how it works.
Look, at the end of the
thank
day,
you
it's all
very much.
price action, right? It's just a different way of looking at it. There are volume profile traders, market profile, ICT traders. We got strat traders. I know successful EMA traders who are
Mhm.
doing well. There are a lot of ways to do this, and it's
Definitely, I'm not knocking anybody. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's like I'm like 90%, 95% of my trading is strat based, but I'm not closed off to exploring other ideas and concepts that may improve my trading. Like whatever tools I can add to my toolbox that work for me, I'm willing to try. And if they don't work, then I'll just, I just kind of like leave, take what I need and leave the rest. That's kind of my mentality. And so like I don't knock out if anybody is successful at trading and has figured out some way of making it work. If let's say you're using some kind of moving average and strat combination and that works for you, that's great. Like, who cares? At the end of the day, the goal is to try and extract some money from the market. And if you figured out a way to do that, that's that's a beautiful thing. So
Yep. Yep. That's well said. It's how are you going to get paid? How are you going to make your money, right? But
and
yeah,
I mean for me personally, my thoughts on it are, when you first start, strategy is like 80% of the game, right? It feels like once you learn a strategy, then you can make money. Once you learn a strategy that you're comfortable with, for me, it became 80% psychological and really like 20% is the strategy. Once I know like what setups I'm looking for and what to take, the hard part is following the rules, being disciplined, not over trading, knowing when to walk away, whether I'm up. I mean, I've struggled to walk away when I'm small red, and I let those. I dig a much bigger hole, or I've been very green and then end up red, and it's like, for me, that's a battle of me versus myself. It's not me taking setups. Like I know what setups I'm looking for. It's, can I be patient enough to sit here and wait for them? And if the market's not moving, am I strong enough to just get up and walk away? Can I be happy with a few $100, or am I trying to make a $50,000 day, which sometimes my brain just wants more, more, more. Um, and
Risk
and
management
for
too.
yeah, risk. I mean, manage. Yes, exactly. Like how much? Like if I'm up 1,000, right, and I still maybe there's a great setup. What am I willing to risk to make X number more? Right? Am I willing to risk another? Am I willing to risk my $1,000 in profit to make another 200? That makes no sense, right? If the setup is there where I can make 500, then I need to say to myself, hey, if I take a shot at this trade and I lose 200 if I'm trying to make 500 and I'm willing to risk 200, that's a great risk return. But I can't let that all of a sudden go down to like, now I'm risking 400 or 500 or 600. Then the RR on the trade becomes way worse and it just makes no sense. I would have been better off just doing anything else. And so for me, that's the struggle most days is being a very disciplined rules based trader, and I'm just, I struggle with that in my life. I'm not a rules kind of guy. I've been successful not following rules, but when it comes to trading, if you don't have a very disciplined, strict set of rules, you're really probably not going to do very well. So that's where I find myself today is trying to wrap my head around saying like I need to treat it like a business. I'm willing to risk X amount of dollars to make Y amount of dollars, and if the market's not, if maybe I'm off that day, maybe the market's just not moving, but I can't allow myself to dig a huge red hole or give back 2 weeks of gains in a single session. That's not treating trading like a professional. That's gambling, you know.
Yep.
And that's
So
coming
I'd
that's
like to
coming
add
from
my
a guy
two
who
cents.
Tom
Go
Tom
ahead. Go
Tom
ahead.
had his Tom had, and I've chatted with him before about this before, but this is coming from a guy who said, screw this, I have to take this like a business, right? So that's when Tom kind of got opened my eyes to it, is like, yeah, you can't just be learning some, you know, game, right? It's not like just, if you want to make money at this, you got to take it seriously. And that's when I really kind of buckled down and said, okay, yeah, I need to dedicate more time in working on myself, because that became my obvious sort of common denominator. Like, why did none of these strategies that I learned work? And I think that it circle it back to what you guys were saying earlier, is it's important to know when the market is easy versus when the market is difficult. It goes back to this risk reward stuff that Tom just said, is why would you risk 600 to make 200? That doesn't make any sense, right? And so that's a version of, well, the market's playing hard right now. It's not easy. And so this new guy that I've been learning from too, he says, when the market is easy, you go hard. But when the market is hard, you go easy, right? And just like, how do you know that? Well, I've got indications with Strat and even some of this old ICT stuff that I had picked up. But yeah, it's this game is really just about the situational awareness. Is the market hard? Is the market easy? And that's, I think, what frustrates a lot of people, is they don't, that's the first thing you got to be able to figure out, right? Is this a tradable condition right now?
Post about info. I mean, anytime I live stream or the market, I post about it regularly where I say market is on easy mode, right? When the market is just trending hard, like that Nvidia news that came out, they were allowed to sell chips to China. I mean, the market rallied like 170 points. It was just an aggressive move. That's the time to be aggressively long. Or, I ended up shorting near the top. Like, that's when I need to, like, okay, market is moving. This is the time to show up. When the market is just not really doing anything, I have to shift my mindset into defensive mode. The goal is not to make money, right? I guess I want to try and make money, but more importantly, I need to protect capital, right? When the market is aggressively moving and there's money to be made, that's when I need to be aggressive and being money shift my mindset into this is the time to capitalize on it. And those times may only happen once, twice, three times a week. It's we're not always going to get these aggressive moves, but when they happen, and as traders, we can really make our whole week in one, two, or three trades if we're smart about how we approach it, right? The first I just had an XFF brand new funded account I activated. First day I was up 3,200 on that Nvidia trade. That's a great week, right? The rest of the week I should have been in defensive mode, right? Waiting for for the next great opportunity, and I wasn't, and I blew that account up, which was super disappointing. Uh, just completely tilted and off the rails, and you know, um, all I can do is try and learn from that and say, okay, what mistakes did I made? What could I do better next time? How do I want to approach this in the future? And that's just like an amateur kind of mistake. And that, anytime somebody tells me, hey, I had an account with $3,000 and I blew up all $3,000 in one trading session, I'm like, dude, you just can't do that, right? Or, you can't make those types of, that's an easy mistake to avoid. Is you got to cut yourself off at some point and say, hey, that was enough, right? Maybe you give back 400, 500, 600. You don't blow the account up. That's not okay. So I'm human. I still make those same mistakes. I just try and learn from them. I just try and improve a little bit every day. And I think that's the hardest part of trading, is really getting to know ourselves and how we kind of handle like the fear and the greed and all of the emotional stuff that comes with trading stuff.
So my hat's off to Tom, Solanke, Alex, Sarah, because only recently I've had an opportunity to work directly with somebody there with me at the location I'm at when I'm trading, who's wanting to learn. And it's very difficult to trade while you're still trying to field questions when someone that's not necessarily new at trading, but asking some very good questions. So the distractions is tough. And Tom has always given very good examples of what not to do. And, we've all been there, okay? And I like it when we're all on the same page with regards to it's us versus us. It's not the market was mean to me or some guy sank my ship. No, it's you versus you. So that's an important note. Thank you for that,
Market
Tom.
makers are hunting
Yeah.
your stop.
Yeah, it's dirty, filthy market makers
He's
are
hunting my
stop
stop.
hunting me.
Sherbert, how
I
long
have
have
a
you been
really
at
quick
this game?
question.
Go.
I started COVID time,
Okay,
probably like a lot of people.
cool.
So I have
Yeah,
a really
so
quick
did I. I
question.
was bored.
What's your question? Go.
What's your question? Yeah.
Oh, just two tickers. If I don't know if because I missed the first part of the stream, but Microsoft, I saw it at the bottom of the butterfly, and I went to take it up, but then I didn't see an actionable signal. If there's anybody who actually took the Microsoft up last week, if they can let me know what actionable signal they saw, and the number two is if we can look at HIMS
Yep.
for the upside.
So I actually
Okay.
played this one. It was, yeah, this is kind of what I saw is this hammer day. I thought, okay, well, if this holds, did it take out a low? And I drew that one in. So I got it right. I got one contract right at the end of the day on Wednesday for the expansion of the broadening formation target. And yeah, so that one was cool. But this is now your broadening formation, right? Is you're inside this range. So the here's the way I'm looking at it is how do we get out of that is I mean I would expect this maybe even open as a kicker, but you know expand this level here and we're heading back to the upside. So I'll set my alert for Microsoft. I love trading Microsoft. The options are great on this thing. If it goes against you though, you got to be able to exit that one fairly quick. I'd like the 3-2 week expansion, and that would be my signal. We've still got the 3-2 week, or sorry, 3-2 quarter going up. So that's my look on Amazon or on Microsoft. And
And also be very cautionary because it's the FOMC week next week.
yeah, yeah. What was the second one, Sherber?
I think she said hymns.
HIMS.
Right. Sarah got this one on the day that we had this massive. She called it out in premium, the 3-2 expansion, and I think she got. And actually, she made a video on it too, where she got like 7-1 on this, and she could have got like 7-49 had she held. She was mad at herself because she had no reason to get out. There was no reversals on the 60.
So we're talking about this one.
Yeah.
Uh,
So this coming
how
week,
are we talking about like okay, coming week? Okay, I thought we wanted to look at like what happened.
take a run at
So
it.
on the
Go.
week,
What do
3-2.
you see?
I
For
mean, we
this
saw the
coming week,
gap left up ahead, up above, but
yeah.
on the 4 hour
So I
we just
mean,
did a.
on the month we're inside in green, but the month we don't have much left. On the quarter, we're still inside. And then I guess on the year, like just take a quick look here. On the year, we're two up in green. So it looks like, I mean, time frame wise, not including the month and the quarter, it looks like we want to head to the upside. On the week, you have three outside, three and up, which is good. On the daily, I guess you can draw out the broadening formation. You have like I guess a bigger broadening formation, but you also have like a very small one that's forming with this 2-1-3 that just occurred. Um, so it seems like you're like it's kind of weird. You're like at the high of a broadening formation of a smaller broadening formation, but within the bigger broadening formation, you're like somewhat stuck in the middle of it. On Friday, it did test like the broadening formation, the lower one. It kind of bounced off of it, which is good. It closed somewhat in the middle of the three, which is it's like neutral. It's kind of like a doji at that point, slightly red. So with the with what we're looking for next week, if we can go 3-2 and up, right? 3-2 up in green, you have targets for that gap fill, as well as you could try to go higher. You could make maybe I don't think it's gonna make two up this month, but you could for next month you have a possible 2-1-2 to the upside, and then also could trigger two up green for the quarter with possible target to make all-time high around 72. So it looks good, and from a higher time frame perspective, on the day, perhaps you have a 3-2 to the upside, and then first target would be that gap fill. Um, and then from there you have weekly magnitude, and then also triggering on the month/quarter. Yeah. Solanke, anything you want to add?
Well, I mean, I would look at it and say, just is this likely going to go 2-1-2 up or 2-1-2 down? Right now, overall, you look at the trend; it's clearly up on the year. So I would say favor the upside. What would be the signals? Would be continuity on the August print, which would be a 3-2 on the week at least, and then
This
so
stock seems also really like to be driven by news, so
yeah.
that's something I guess you guys really want to watch out for. If there's any kind of like news about because I think they were working with like I forgot what company, Lilly or Novo or something, and then when they were announced that they were in partnership, boom, the stock rocketed. When they announced that they were not going to be partnering together, boom, they just rocketed down. So I think this is one you really have to like see the news as a catalyst for the price. I know Sarah and Alex say the news doesn't matter, but um, with certain tickers, it really does matter, I would say. So for
There
next
was
week,
a news event that affected it. I forget if it was Wednesday or Thursday that made it go down.
right? So with what I'm watching for, right? Let's say Monday goes two up, right? We want to see what happens when it hits that first target, which is the gap fill. Does it, hit the gap fill, minor correction, keep going up, or does it hit gap fill, reverse, and now our two up in green goes two down in red, and now we're headed to the bottom of the three that we made on Friday, and perhaps low and perhaps I don't think it could, but it could go to the bottoms. They could go all the way down to the bottom of our broadening formation as well. Um, but that'd be kind of a wait and see on Monday how it goes.
Yeah, I think the key is just how you're going to get out of this broadening formation here. I mean, it's the same bar, right? It's the mother bar in the 60. So how you going to get out of that? And that'll tell you what the rest of this shit's going to do.
Yep.
That's a good point, Slonky. I am often catching myself trying to trade in an area where in hindsight, I realize that there is a mother bar that is a problem. And anytime you get price stuck in a range like that, it's usually best to wait for some kind of clear direction.
See, and this is where and we did this at the beginning, right? Why I don't really care about the mother bar rule anymore is because of the the SPY play is I will play it. So my rules for playing mother bar is continuity of the flip, and if we I'm looking for a lower time frame broadening formation to expand. So in this case, this three should expand to the upside in the
Get
direction
the
of time
bigger
frame,
one
right?
going.
To get time frame continuity. That's like
Yeah.
once I'm stuck inside a range, I used to say I won't trade inside, right? But now because I can trade lower time frames, I will look to see how does the baby try expand and then get
To
the
get
upside.
out of that
Right,
to get
exactly.
out of that bigger range.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and also knowing that once you're stuck inside range, these expansions are likely to fail, right? So what would that look like then is I look at it as, okay, let's say we open something like this, and then we try to get out of this three and we take out some highs and then we start failing again. Then you're coming back and eventually it's gonna over some time. We don't know which bar it's going to be, but eventually it's going to either get out on the top side or the bottom side. Once it does that, then you have a better idea of, okay, is this going to be inside month and down or inside month and up? And, that's where the continuity comes in. So that's the way I like to look at it, is
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
continuity, the
I
flip,
mean it's
and then the bars.
yeah, I mean you really have to use other clues. You can't just get trapped. At least for me, I can't, sometimes I would get trapped not really looking at kind of context, I guess, in
Yep.
some way, just trading some setups in certain directions, and then I would get smacked in the face with an outside bar inside of a bigger mother bar. You just
I
have to
like
be cautious.
I like to
Good to
trade the reversals inside of a mother bar. 'Cause, like, for example, if you want to think about it one way, like if we're looking at Solanke's example with the mother bar, let's say it tries to go like make a new low, and that new low turns into like 2 down and green hammer, right? Then where is it gonna go from there, right? So if it works, then it's gonna get outside the hammer on the upside. But if it doesn't work, you're positioned well that you have a nice, because you're at the bottom of the broadening formation, you can manage your risk really well and just
Yeah,
either get out at a tiny profit or just get out.
Yeah, I'm looking at the hourly right there. That's a perfect example of what I would like. What I used to trade would be we've got a big outside bar, right? So the 3, we got an inside bar, and then you see it breaks bare and then smacks you in the face with an outside bar. Like, so taking those trades used to catch me every time, and I'm like, and then I talked to Sarah about it, and she was like, yeah, you just have to be aware that she was like, Rob would always tell me, you got to avoid or approach trading inside of a mother bar a little bit differently. You can't just take, a regular setup without being a little more on point. Just have your guard up, right? If something breaks in one direction, it doesn't necessarily mean that's where it's going quite yet, because it is a big range to trade within. So
I think a good example of this mother bar action was actually Palantir. If we look at it from like, I think end of June.
End of June.
So end of June area, you see that giant mother bar,
Yep.
red?
Yep.
And on the daily, you have what, huge bar, and then the next day you open inside, which is like for some people their worst nightmare. But then it kind of works, right? You get the 3-1-2 to the downside. It breaks lower,
like
but then
honestly,
fails.
this should be like mandatory. This chart here should be mandatory for anybody who's learning the strat. It's so clean. You have massive green bars on the higher time frames. So now you're looking for a way in. You get this 3 and then the reclaim and no reversals against. It's a thing of freaking beauty. It's absolutely perfect. And actually, with the time frame continuity, you can even see when time frame continuity kicks in on the week here. Wait, there's a 60. So, right, it's all red here. And then as soon as it reclaims, you give it a little bit, and then whoosh, off we go again.
Yeah, this is one I took the trade off of like from the bottom off that daily like 2-1-2.
Yep.
It was kind of annoying because I took it off when it made that 2 up on the day and just literally fizzled and did nothing. I was like, oh, this is another one of my maybe failed whatever, so I got out of it. But then on the very next day, got back into it and it made that giant 3 bar and hit the target, and yeah, off we went. It was great.
I think some people, it's great that you said that. Some people are hesitant to like take another shot at it, and I think that's what works for me sometimes. Like I don't have the greatest win rate, but I'm okay taking another shot, and my usually the returns on my trades are, make up for the paper cuts that I take along the way, and like I get a lot of people in my DMs, and they're like, yeah, I tried this and it failed, and then I'm like, yeah, but it there was another setup right after that, or you could have re-entered and you took no heat and the thing just launched. Like you can't be scared to take another crack at it just because you got, if you keep your risk small, you take the loss, right? You eat it, and then you try and make it back on the next trade if you can, and hopefully it works, and you make it count. So bravo on you
Exactly.
for not giving. Don't give up on the trade. Like if you have some conviction on what you're looking for, and maybe it doesn't work the first time, that doesn't mean it's not going to work. Might just mean your timing is off a touch.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten really good at that after watching like Mark Douglas is like I think I've talked about this on previous streams. It's just the coin flip that's in your favor, right? So if
Yep.
it flips heads 70% of the time, your focus isn't on, oh, I got a tails. Oh, I got another tails. It's I'm gonna flip that coin as many times as I can because I know in the end I'm gonna be ahead, right? So if the
Yeah.
trade is there, I'm gonna take it. I don't care if one trade doesn't work, two trades don't work. I'm just focused on, is the setup there? Is everything in alignment? Then take it, you know?
Yeah. That's the best way to look at it. You mentioned it earlier. More if you followed your rules and your process and it was a loss, that's still a win, right? It's not necessarily the outcome of the trade. Is did you follow your rules and are you following your rules every time when those trade sets up? Because you're hoping statistically over a long period of time that the odds are going to be in your favor. And if you're not taking the same setups every time, then I've got somebody who's really struggling right now, been struggling for a minute, and I just keep encouraging them like you've got to take the trade. You can't say every time I take the trade it screws me, but you're only taking 40% of the trades. You know what I mean? That's not every time. You're missing a huge component here. You have to take the same setups repeatedly, following your rules, and then you hope that over a number of trades that you're in a winning position at the end of the day, right? It's not any one single trade that makes or breaks you. It's not even a bad week, right? We're trying to make a series of good decisions and follow rules over a long period of time and hope to end up on top. That's
Yeah.
it.
I find, yeah, that's the big thing. And then I think another big thing I see a lot of people struggle with is just trading their P&L. Like you're in a good trade, right? And it's just give it time to work, and they're like, oh, it went down, like I'm down 5%, I'm out. Or if it's like the trade is working in their favor and it hasn't even hit target yet, and there's no signal against, they're like, oh, I was up 30%. I just got scared. I want to take it out, take
Yeah,
it
I've got a
off,
lot of
right?
people, who are struggling, and as soon as they see green, because they're struggling, they see green, they cash out of the best trades they could possibly be in, and instead of making a few $100, they end up making like $20, but they're willing to sit through a $50 or $200 losing trade, and I'm like, bro, you gotta shift that mindset a bit. Why are you willing to let a red trade go against you so far, but as soon as you see a little bit of green, you're like, oh my God, I'm up. I gotta lock that in. Just let the trade work.
That is
Be
absolutely my problem. That was my problem until a couple of weeks ago. That was
yeah,
But the
exactly
most
it.
interest the most interesting thing is when you ask those traders and you're like looking at their chart and you're like, okay, so that's where you set your stop and you were supposed to get out here, right? And you didn't. And then it just kept going against you. And you ask them, so was the trade a short or was the trade a long from, in retrospect? And they're like, you know what? It was a short the entire time. I can't believe I couldn't even see it because I was just so focused on my like P&L and like not following my rules and my psychology and all that. So that's another like interesting point too.
Sherber, how did you get that sorted out in your head? And you said, okay, things really clicked for you. What was it that when you said just now, that was exactly your problem? Talk us through that if you don't mind.
Um,
Like, I guess my question is,
it's I think it's understanding the setup and where it's gonna go, and having seen it played out so many times, I could trust it. Because a lot of times I didn't take the trade and it went to exactly, how as the strat goes where it's supposed to go. Um, and so it's just having watched that, and then just all the traders in the room.
mhm. What time frame do you trade?
And that gave me the conviction. Um, I don't stick to any particular one, quite honestly.
Okay,
If
same.
I just see the setup, I'll take it. So right now I'm doing the failed twos and the 1-3-2s is what's standing out for me.
Hmm.
And just reversals in general, I find continuations very difficult and getting chopped up when I try to get in. Um,
Do you do
so
shares or
oh,
options,
options,
weeklies?
yeah. Options weekly or maybe 2, 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out, probably max.
You feel like that was a
Um,
confidence thing, like you like not trusting that price was going to go where it was, and then you eventually saw it do that enough times where you were like, okay, let me just try and trust the process here, and I feel like a lot of people, it just takes a few of those to work, and then you start to build confidence, say, okay, I've seen this
yeah,
before.
that's exactly. Yeah, yep. And it's like, and at some point I just had to bite the bullet because if I'm going to be willing to go so deep in the red and really end up losing a lot of times, well, if it's going to pull back, why not? And the trade is still good, and I know it's good, then why not stick with it? Or if it's going to be a little bit green, keep sticking with it. I will say I took way too early profits on the Palo Alto Networks trade last week, but I was in a lot of contracts and I was on the phone. Had to take care of something else at the same time. Just a lot of stuff going on, and then so I just took the profit, but I still made a decent size, so I was happy with the amount. But yeah, I left a lot on the table on that one still,
I
uh,
think that's hard.
but I'm
I think
still
that's
working
hard for
on
some.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard for some people to get out of. Like if you've been beaten up a lot, to just try and like switch things around, and that's what I'm trying to work with a couple of people on, is just saying like, hey man, set your stop, set the take profit, and just leave the tray, right? Don't touch it. Like at least do it 10 or 20, whatever Mark Douglas kind of says. Just run the trade, take the same trade 20 times and then see if it's working. And I think maybe when you get your teeth kicked in over and over, it's hard to have any kind of confidence, and I think you need to have a couple small wins to actually build confidence back up to say, okay, I see that this could potentially work. I'm going to stick with it, right? Like there's got to be a breaking point where you're just like, I'm going to let this go, right? I don't even care. If I stop out, I stop out. If it hits profit, it hits profit, and then just, you get a couple wins under your belt and you just say like, all right, hey, maybe this is working.
So I did a deep dive
Yes,
on the
and then
psychology of this. Sorry, and I'll make this one real quick. Is the idea of, oh shit, I see a big green number would freak me out because I've been working so hard at this that I see a big number and I say, okay, now it's time to pay myself and pay myself. And so to do that, you have to close the trade, right? But what I had to write in my journal was expect to see bigger green numbers, right? Like in my P&L, so when I see that, it doesn't scare me anymore. It's okay, now they're going to get even big. And it's not a greed thing. It's not a greed thing. It's the okay, here's an emotion. And when the emotion comes up, now what I'm doing is I go to the chart and say, what does the data tell me? Do I have data that's going to support? And then I have to work on myself and soothe myself and say, okay, look, you know what? Your signals are still in force. They're still good. You've got, and so to your point, Sherebear, one of the things that I'd like to point out, and this could really take your trading to the next level. If you're looking at 132 expansions, start looking a little bit earlier to see the reclaim of the one. And then soon as the continuity of the three changes from red to green, that could, so you don't have to necessarily wait. So I got this trick from Cardillion, and I think Just Mike were focusing on that, is when you're stuck and happen to, just beyond the chart, I found with Palantir, these bars are kind of in, these two bars are inside that one there. And so reclaim of the low of this one gives you that 132 expansion, and there is no reversals on this until we get to the other side of this range, right? This 322. It was a compound 322, but once we took out these lows, there was no reversal on the daily until we expanded the range. So you can add that to your watch list in your mind in terms of like when you're scanning for 132s. Now what I'm doing is I'm scanning for inside bars, a break below, and then reclaim, and then that becomes the 132. But yeah, expect to see big green numbers, man. That was a game changer for me when I saw, these massive, and I'll call them massive because, I haven't made that kind of money with and I try not to do that, too much because I'm still trying to keep this technical. I'm still trying to keep this about discipline. But when I actually saw that, oh shit, this stuff works, and the time is paying off. Now I'm allowing myself to get paid even more with the market, right? Like, okay, yeah, the signal's still in force. Hold. No reason to get out. And also get back in.
I don't want to eat up on the video, so I'm gonna just DM you separately about this, what you mentioned just now,
Sure.
because while you were mentioning it, my AirPod died, and then I was switching to
Yeah.
to my other headphones, so I missed a little bit of what you said.
No worries.
But
Cool.
thank you for whatever it was that you shared,
Sure.
the bits that I caught of it. But I'm gonna be DMing you on that.
Cool.
One more quick thing that helped me that I realized I have to shout out to Billy. I don't know if you guys know Billy Ray Valentine in the room, but the thing about the P&L, which was difficult, that shifted for me was, it's like if I'm going to be trading off the 4-hour trigger, then just stay on the 4-hour trigger. But then it'd be like going down to all the different time frames, and obviously when you go down, it's going to be going all over the place, and then of course my P&L is going, all over the place, and I see the thing going down on the lower time frames, and that's how I would stop out. So just trust it. If you're on the 4-hour, then trade the 4-hour. If you get it on the 1-hour, then trade the 1-hour, unless it gets invalidated.
That's what I was
And
mentioning
Typically use
earlier. Just
out of the
trust
money
the
or in
higher
the
time
money.
frames.
Oh,
I just trust the higher time frames and try not to get caught up on like a 5-minute chart, right? If I'm taking a 4-hour trade, that trade's got 4 hours to work. Why am I worried about what's happening on a 1-minute chart or a 5-minute chart, or all right, maybe a 15 or a 30 reversal against? Maybe I want to trim a little bit, and then wait for when it starts to move back in my favor, I can always jump back in. But yeah, not to. That's a great point. Not to get so caught up on these little kind of moves on the smaller time frames that are affecting our P&L. If you're staring at the P&L, it's like, oh my god, I just gave back, whatever, a couple $100 or $50, whatever it is, whatever number, gets your blood flowing. And just kind of try and tune out from that and not emotional trade. Just trade what's happening on the higher time frames.
Yeah.
I was asking, do you guys typically trade like with options in the money, out of the money, deep in the money, deep out of the money? A
For
level.
me, I go when I see where the magnitude is going to be, and if I have a big room to go. It also depends on like the size, like the price of the contracts also. But let's say it's, let's
Let's say
say
your
like
target's like
let's say I
150.
entered at like 50 and the target is at like 57, then I'll get in like at the 57 strike. But then I'll also see like the volume and the open interest. If there's only a couple people playing on that strike, then I'll go with the one that plays more. But that's for
Yeah,
me.
that answers my question. Yeah, I was curious because I've seen some people, they like to pick the strike closest to where like the price is trading at currently, and then other people they like to pick where they think their target's gonna be, or they like to pick like slightly higher than where their target's gonna be, just so that they can get like a higher gain percentage. But that was just a curiosity question.
And I think Drea had a good video on this too about where she picks her strikes and why, because she goes way out of the
Yeah,
money, but with the movement on that. So
yeah, she also sometimes takes like multiple strikes as well. So that's a different, I guess, topic for another time, I guess.
Speaking of which, I'm gonna have to wrap up here.
It's a good
But
time.
yeah, it was a great session again. It was good. I'll actually get this thing starting to upload now, and if anybody wants to take a peek, and then I will also get the. I need to trim that watch list. It was way too big, so I might spend another hour later on tonight after dinner and take care of that. But
Cool. Appreciate
this was
everyone.
fun. Thanks,
I
Yeah,
guys.
really like.
yeah. Thanks, Solanke. I appreciate you doing this. I mean, it's great that I just sit down in Discord and there's a whole bunch of people as passionate about trading as I am, and I get to talk. We get to
Dude,
talk trading and psychology and
I
and all
need
the good shit.
I need you here all the time, man. Your stuff is awesome. It's
Thank you,
it's really
Tom.
helpful.
I'll stay
Thank you,
tuned in.
Tom.
All right, Frankie.
All right, guys. Have a great day.
We'll see you guys. Take care.
Good luck this
thank
week.
you.